You muted.
How's everybody doing today? This is the Vulcan Soapbox. We're going to be covering a wide variety of topics today. We look forward to having everybody put their comments in as they see them. Those of you who are going to join the show, we're looking forward to having you come on the show. This show is about encouraging people to think critically. We want to encourage you to think critically. Use your sound judgment and sound reason. You're going to see us on the show point out times and places where people aren't using sound reasoning, and also to encourage people to work on their reasoning skills. So we're excited to get into it. Everybody have a good time on the show today. Let's get it. What's up, Chris?
How y'all doing?
We're good, man.
I don't care why you masking.
It don't even matter.
I don't care what happened to you as I'm a 40-year-old man.
You got a daughter?
No, I don't.
Because
But,
we
that's not,
compare your
but my
feminine.
point is this. My point is this. You all wouldn't care if a man came to you feminine and said, my dad wasn't in my life. My mom didn't teach me this. You say, bro, you 38 years old. I don't want to deal with a feminine man that hasn't addressed his issues. So for me, dealing with a woman that way, I'm going to tell you the same thing. I understand you had issues or whatever growing up and you had to be a certain way, but I'm not going to put up with it as far as trying to be in a relationship with you because you don't know how to be a feminine woman. That's
so what?
All right, so everybody able to see the video right now?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
all right, so there we go.
It don't even matter.
I don't care what happened to you as I'm a 40-year-old man.
You got a daughter?
No, I don't.
Because
But,
we
that's not
compare your
but my
feminine.
point is this. My point is this. You all wouldn't care if a man came to you feminine and said, my dad wasn't in my life. My mom didn't teach me this. You say, bro, you 38 years old. I don't want to deal with a feminine man that hasn't addressed his issues. So for me, dealing with a woman that way, I'm going to tell you the same thing. I understand you had issues or whatever growing up and you had to be a certain way, but I'm not going to put up with it as far as trying to be in a relationship with you because you don't know how to be a feminine woman.
So what's a feminine woman? What's your definition?
A woman that basks in her femininity. She knows how to be submissive to a man. She knows how to speak life into a man. She knows how to nurture. She knows how to take care of her home, take care of kids. She knows how to be accountable. She knows how to be reasonable. She knows how to be understanding when she's dealing with a man and knows which battles to choose when she's dealing with him. I don't care what.
All right. So, and do you agree with the video? Yes or no? And why? Let's start off with our guests. We could start off with, let's go with Derek.
All right. Yes, I agree with it. I agree with it about 100%. If it were, I mean, he couldn't have said it any clearer. I mean, because if the tables were turned, the woman wouldn't give two craps about the guy being that way. But because we live in a society where women don't even understand what it means from our viewpoint to be masculine, they don't get it at all. And so, yeah, I agree with it.
Yes, let's get Tracy here. Do you agree with the video? Yes.
I mean, I understand what he's saying, and I agree that those characteristics in a woman are desirable. Um, so as far as that goes, no, I have no argument or debate on that at all. However,
Case in point.
Always that.
yes, however,
Case in
I
point.
mean, you know what? The only issue that I find with that is that I think that a lot of men misconstrue personality with feminine versus masculine characteristics. Because there are a lot of women that, especially on social media, as soon as a woman voices her opinion, they use that in such a derogatory way. Like they're so quick, no offense, we're just generalizing. But in general, it's so quick for a man to say, oh, you just masculine or blah, 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 because she has an opinion and things like that. And I think that's where the discrepancy kind of enters the room between men and women when it comes to that. You can still be a super strong, super capable, working woman that knows how to go home and cater and nurture and kiss the boo-boos and all of that. And I think the society that we're in right now is not allowing a lot of men to see both sides of the spectrum. It's like you're so quick to run away from any type of abrasion that it's becoming redundant, if that makes sense.
Let's get Chris in here. Chris, you agree with the video?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes, I definitely agree with the video with what he says. Because he is 100% right. I've literally heard it from another woman's mouth that exactly what she said, that if a man is a certain age, then you should have learned to be masculine by now and things like that. But I also agree with what she just said in some parts of it, because I feel like there's a lot of women who do show both traits, the feminine side and the masculine side, which to me, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you got to do it accordingly. But I feel like a lot of women, they're probably going to take a longer time to show the feminine side. And so they just up front show more of a masculine side. And so I think that's why the narrative gets the way that it is, because they never get to the point or reach to the point where they want to show their feminine side.
Yeah, I think for myself, he made a few different points. So I'd say the one that stands out to me the most immediately was just him saying, if the shoe's on the other foot. And Derek already spoke on that, and Tracy already said she agreed to some extent, and Chris agreed as well. But I just think that when it comes to the mate selection that we do, men may select a certain way, looking for a certain personality, a certain way of approaching the relationship, and women do the same. And if a man is showing up in a way that women don't typically find to be appealing, they're not going to care about the why. They just won't.
Yep.
If a guy's 5'6", because he had some kind of issue with his hormone, some kind of hormonal issue, that's not going to get him a chance. It's still over for him, So I think he brings a really good point with that.
Yep.
You're on mute. You're talking.
All right, let me ask you another question then. So, what about the black culture produces masculine women?
Uh-oh.
Goodness.
Yeah, let's start off with Chris.
Wow.
Speak on it, Chris. Speak on it.
You better get Chris canceled, man. What's going on?
Hey, you don't have.
Oh, I didn't realize I had my mic on mute, but I would definitely say, from my perspective, would be the family outlook. I've noticed, obviously, I've seen a lot of Black single mothers, and so I feel like they have to step into the masculine role by raising a family of their own. So I feel like that probably contributes to the masculinity side of them. They feel like they have to take on that role. So I feel like that's a major part of it. I'm sure there's more to it, but that's just what I see.
Okay. Tracy?
Okay, I have a question first, if that's okay. I need to understand what y'all are defining as masculine. I mean, everyone is quick and it's easy for y'all to say what feminine is, but what are y'all defining as masculine?
Who wants to take a shot at that? Okay, I mean, if nobody else is volunteering, I'll go ahead and go. So, I mean, obviously, we can spend hours defining masculinity. So, if I try to just make it in some quick bullet points, I would say masculinity is number one. We're going to push the physical aspect aside. Let's deal with the non-tangible things. We're going to say competence, a strategist. Let me say what I mean by confidence first before I go to strategist. Confidence meaning a confidence in somebody's ability to understand the world and manipulate the world. The second one being a strategic person, somebody who's very strategic. Ladies like men who have a plan. One of the things you see online all the time is you're gonna take me on a date. Don't ask me any questions. I just want you to plan it out. Just get it done. Women like men who get things done. So I would say that's a masculine quality. It's the ability to, have resolve, not be what's the word I want to use? Certain word I want to use right now, but just having resolve. Being confident about what you're gonna do. I would say that's masculinity in a lot of ways. Being assertive. Being less agreeable, less tolerant of people walking all over you. That's considered to be a pretty masculine quality. So those are the few I'll say in short. Obviously, we can keep on going, but anybody have anything on that?
Yeah. I think when we're talking about masculine as it pertains to women, is like let's say a woman, if a guy were to ask her, let's say he's a decently successful guy, and he asks, what would you add to my life? Because you got women right now where that they're asking it, like, what are you going to add to my life? Like they're the leader, they're the ones that you're going to come and make their life better. But a masculine woman views her career and views what she has as something to be desired. That's masculine because men don't give a crap about that. They give a crap about that. So you'll see a lot of projection from what women want in us. When they start acting those things out, they think that's what we want. It's like, no, that's another dude.
Let me. Can I add? I just want to add to that and say, because I
Yeah.
definitely Derek's saying right there. It's when ladies exhibit the qualities that they'd want in the opposite sex.
Yeah. That's it in a nutshell. Now, we're not talking about a woman not being assertive. She can be assertive. She can be in business. She can be whatever. But when all those things are in her mind the reason that a man should want her, that's when the man is like, dude, you're like a female dude. Like I'm in competition with you. The last thing I want to do is come home and handle a woman.
You got to know
So
how to
yeah.
handle.
Well, that's just it. I don't want to handle. If
A real man
chick
can
says,
handle.
yeah, no, a real man would handle her by letting her go. Come home from work and have to handle somebody.
All right, so Tracy, did Volker answer the definition? Did he define it for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. From my understanding, what I just took from that is basically for a woman to take her accomplishments and the material things in life that she desires from a man and assume that that is something that a man desires from her. So essentially, she's basically, I guess, proud of her accomplishments. And maybe that suggests that she thinks that she is like a prize because of them. Is that what I'm gathering?
Yeah. I mean, Derek, you want to hit that, or you want me to hit that, or?
Oh, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
So I would say I don't see the problem with the proud part. Like, just to kind of throw it, make something analogous on the converse side. I mean, it'll be like, let's say I was an amazing basket weaver. I don't imagine, even though might be proud that I'm a great basket weaver, I don't think that's going to help me in the dating market.
It's just, I guess, and I can't speak for all of us, but as somebody that has, I do things that are not typical of a woman. Okay, so I build custom furniture pieces from scratch. I love raw wood and metals, and my garage has more tools than most men that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I don't necessarily advertise that. However, that ability to do those kind of things, those things that are not traditionally feminine, I suppose, has always been a bonus. So it's hard to maybe fathom that it could be construed as a negative. And so I guess the point that I'm making here, or that I'm running around to, is that I feel like a lot of the things that you guys view as masculine coming from a woman.
The audio's
Can you hear me?
Maybe some my end, but I thought the audio was messing up a little bit.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, Tracy.
Okay.
It seems like a lot of things that you guys view as masculine, it almost feels like an effort to diminish, like a woman's accomplishment. Like I hear it so much, that men don't care about our degrees and they don't care about our accomplishments like that. Those aren't the selling factor or what.
Can I interject?
Yes.
I get, for me, I try to avoid the extreme language, right? So don't care is like a zero, it goes to zero. So whenever we're talking about it's either this or it's that, so much of life is going to be on that spectrum somewhere, left or to the right. So I would say it's not so much that you wouldn't care, you would care. It just wouldn't be one of the primary attributes you look for when you're trying to mate select. That's what I would say.
Right. And you know what? I agree with that. I honestly do. I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, if you're a traditional man, then you're probably looking for more traditional qualities from a woman, as far as like you mentioned earlier, the nurturing spirit, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't know. I just feel like there's men out there that value other things as well, especially in today's worlds where, they do value accomplishments and they do that. And for those women that have done that, I don't necessarily call them masculine. I would just say that they lead with that. And maybe they're lacking in other areas because they lead like that. It's just like a guy overcompensating with his wallet. Maybe that's what it is.
But see, that's the thing. A guy overcompensating with his wallet, because we know that around the world and throughout human history, a man's wallet was a major contributor to the amount of opportunities you're going to have with the opposite sex. That's historically, that's worldwide. So it would make sense. Not saying that men always do it in the best way. I have friends that lead that way all the time, and it comes across clumsy, comes across, too materialistic. But at the same time, generally speaking, he just did it in a very clumsy way. There's much more sophisticated ways to display your affluence. I mean, most of the studies that have been done show that one of the main factors women mate select for is perceived affluence, whether it's on dating apps or it's when they take do studies and they show women different pictures of different men wearing different types of clothing. Some clothing that lend itself to the person being more affluent, and the women tend to pick those guys more often. So we do know that is a real thing that happens.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was it.
Well, yeah, I just think that I think that the problem with the whole masculine versus feminine movement thing is just like I said, I think that they're just quick to call anything that they don't like masculine. I do, because from a woman's perspective, like none of us want to be, bushes and or like none of us want to control a dude. We don't want to do that. We don't want to control a grown man. We don't want to be in a household with a man and still have to lead that household. Like that's not the overall desire of most women.
So Tracy, and if Chris and Derek are, feel free to, chime in, but the thing is that if ladies, like you said, which I would agree with on paper, they wouldn't want to leave that household. But if they are advertising their assertiveness, their boss, I got this business, they don't have they have the time of a traditional entrepreneur would have. They're busy with juggling a bunch of different stuff. So that's not classically feminine. The feminine is going to help the masculine. Is gonna serve the masculine.
I think what you just said sucks. I think that sucks because it's like if a woman is an adult and she is single, and let's say, I don't know, she's divorced. Let's say she's a widow. Let's say any of these situations. So she has a family. Is she not supposed to work? Is she not supposed to be capable of buying a home? Is she not supposed to, either be able to hire a yard man or get out there and weed herself? Like, of course she's supposed to do these things. And it's almost like the capability to do what a man is able to do is a turnoff for men. But at the same time, we have to be alive. We have to eat. We have to feed our kids. We got to have a job that we can afford to take off of when people are sick and not die. Like, we have to be able to do all those things. So I guess now the question would be, how are you gauging, your dislike or your like of what you consider to be masculine in a woman? Because it sounds like survival skills.
Okay. I think we are casting a fishing rod in an ocean. Let's kind of get it to a bathtub.
Okay.
When we look at this when we're talking about the masculine woman, all the traits that you just said, yes, those are masculine in a negative way if she thinks that's what attracts us. It's like that's a masculine quality. And if you think I want you because you're a boss babe and you got your own money and you don't financially need me, that's not appealing. Those are masculine traits we don't like. Now, if you're a single woman and you're a boss babe and you want your own life and you don't give a crap about no man, you can be as masculine as you want to be. And we don't have a problem with you being masculine over there. But it's like now you're coming into a relationship, and I'm actually going to spin into this question that you guys have. I think the biggest issue is there's no God. There's no God in these relationships. We don't even get the hierarchy in place. So that already distorts everything. And Tracy, I'm going to say something. It's in a disagreement with you on women don't want to control. The very nature of a woman from the very beginning of time with Eve has been control. And I'll prove it to you in this way. When Eve did what she did, he said, because you did this, you're going to have pain in childbirth, and your desire will be for your husband, but he will rule over you. When you go look up the word desire in Hebrew, it means to usurp control. He literally was telling woman, you're going to want to control. That's going to be an internal thing that you're going to want to do, but he's going to rule over you. And so I would venture to say it. And then you watch TV, everything is set up for the woman. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Happy wife, happy life. Everything is centered around mama, 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 mama. But if you put God in the mix, and you realize that man is accountable to someone above him, and she's accountable to someone above her, if that was the mix in our black culture from the beginning, we'd be looking at things a little differently as far as how our women are showcasing today.
That's a good point. Hold on for a minute. I just want to read the comments. We got Jessica Alexander said, "This is good. Wish I could stay longer." All right. Cool. So I just want to. I'm gonna answer after you, Tracy. You want to respond to Derek, or you have something else to say?
Okay. I don't want to be argumentative. I really don't.
No, I get you.
I totally get the point that you're making. I understand and I empathize with that a lot. However, if we're going to go biblical, and if we're going to bring that up, like the whole notion behind submission is, it's always been stated that the strongest woman is the submissive one, because although you lead, there's a uniqueness and a strength in being able to allow you to do that and being able to trust that you're going to do that properly. But part of that in and of itself is because our opinions and things of that nature are valued, that they're weighed in on the decisions. So it's like inadvertently, we all lead. We all lead. But I don't think that it's fair to say that women don't want that. I think if you took a poll of women, like especially adult women who've been around the block a couple times that have, dealt with this, that, and the other, none
Yeah.
of us are gonna say, I want a man that I can control. I
Oh
want
no,
a
you're not
man
gonna
that's
say
gonna,
it.
or even, I mean, but none of us actually want that. You know what I'm saying? Like when we say, if you use it the way that you're saying it, desire, that's because we want a man that's going to do those things for us. That's our version of control, is him doing all those things for us, not just for himself.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Chris and Vulcan, you want to chime in with Tracy's saying?
I was just going to say that obviously I feel like there's nothing wrong with the woman having some masculine traits. Like I said, I mean, I want my woman to be proud of her accomplishments and things like that, and to let me know. That's fine, but I think it's just when, like, say if she has a man and she's trying to do everything in the house, as in like trying to take on roles that he should be doing. Like it's like, I guess not allowing him to do certain things, kind of like things that he would be more capable of doing. But she just like, I don't need no help and things like that. So I think sometimes it could be more of an attitude kind of thing or a demeanor of like pretty much just not wanting to help sometimes. I mean,
Yeah,
if
that's impatience.
if he's fully able to help, then let him do it. I always feel like that the man and woman role, that if one partner is better at a certain situation, then that partner probably is the best at handling that situation. Like if I don't know as much about a certain area of a topic, but my partner does, then I'm gonna let her handle that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to handle a situation knowing my partner knows more about this situation than I do. So I'll let her take the lead on that situation.
Yeah, I can agree with you. It's I guess as far as, because when you think about women being more masculine, it's some positive benefits for that, right? Especially if she's at the workforce, she want to get more money, want to get a raise at a job. Assertiveness does carry you a long way, able to accomplish your goals. So it depends. And as far as the context, I guess in what you're saying, Chris, in the household, you wouldn't want that, but you do want her to be proud of her accomplishments outside of the household, or where her desires or her goals are outside the household, right?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Well, you want to speak to that?
Well, Tracy, did you have anything you were going to say?
Okay.
I was just gonna say that, I mean, because there was a question posed to the group or whatnot as far as like society and what contributing factors have changed, the way things are. And I think that a lot of people I think it's on men. And I'm sorry, I hate to say that, but I do, because I don't think that over time it's a woman's necessary, like we're not the leaders of the show. Like we don't dictate what the world wants and all those kind of things. Men do. And I think that's a very honest statement. And with that in mind, we have too many men that do feminine things. We have too many men that, that don't uphold like traditional masculine versus feminine, yin and yang type of relationships. And with that being the case, like women have to pick up those certain types of slack. But I think ultimately, if a woman is in a position with a man who's actually capable, I mean, y'all have seen the memes, we will sit down. We will sit down, So I think what you come across is determined by your own character, I mean, there's exceptions, of course. There's exceptions. We all know Cruella DeVille and all of that jazz. But in general, women will sit down. Like I said, I build furniture. I literally haul off large, giant chunks of trees. But if I have a man at home, baby, I can't even turn the light bulb. Okay? Like, we want to sit down. And it's just a matter of your masculinity coming into play up front enough for us to rest and chill out in our feminine, in our essence.
So essentially what you're saying is, to answer the question, said, what about, the question for the panel was, what about Black culture produces masculine women? You're saying that's probably we have to put most of the blame on the men?
I think a lot of the accountability belongs to men. I think that it's unfortunate in the Black community, but we don't have a lot of leaders. We got a lot of followers. And
so mostly, So Volk, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think I appreciate Tracy bringing us back to the main topic. What about Black culture produces masculine women? Because I think I kind of forgot it myself. But so I want to answer that question in particular. For me, what about Black culture produces masculine women is the fact that, and I'm not going to go all the way back to mass incarceration and welfare state and all that kind of stuff to get to how the community got where it got. That's a whole probably another show. I just want to say that when you look at popular culture, I'll just kind of quote Biggie Smalls, in this song, give my daughter this cottage plan so she don't need no man. And I think that a lot of us guys who have daughters or who watched our fathers raise our sisters, they raised a lot of masculine women because we thought that our daughters not needing to depend on a man and things of that nature was going to be beneficial to them. And I think we kind of carried ourselves in that way. So I think Black culture, in a lot of ways, we tend to celebrate the least educated of our community, be like rappers and gangsters and hip hop, people like that. We tend to celebrate people who are the most emotionally unstable and the people who are who have the least amount of empathy. And that being the case, the ladies have had to take on a lot more masculine roles because people that we look up to, they don't have it. And so I think that's part of it when it comes to our Black culture is what we value.
Yeah, I think part of it is culture, but I was thinking as soon as this, when I posted this question on the stream, I'm like, yeah, it's culture, but some of it might just be biology, right? I mean,
you're saying that Black women might be masculine because of biology?
Yeah, they have more testosterone than other. I'm just saying for what studies suggest.
That is a good point.
Because you remember 2 years, or was it last year? What's her name? The South African Olympian. She had to take testosterone pills to lower her testosterone in order. She got disqualified to go to the Olympics. Wow. Yeah, a lot of Black women did. Oh wow.
Yeah, so there is something too that there are some studies that suggest that African people in general tend to have higher testosterone levels, male and female. I think they said it gives us like a denser bone structure, and we build muscle a little bit differently. And so there's some people that would suggest that part of the reason Black women may be a little more masculine is because they have higher testosterone levels.
There it is.
Yeah, her name was Casta Samaya. Casta, I don't know if you heard this.
Oh my goodness.
This was in the news, so I'm just throwing that out there. So it's not just
oh my goodness. I think when it comes to biology and masculinity, I would say that that's more of a physical thing and not necessarily a mental thing. I think what shapes a person mentally is not going to be based off of what created them biologically. I think that's going to.
Let's speak to that real quick. I mean, so do you want to, because it's your point you were making, do you want to speak to that or?
Yeah, I mean, if you. Go ahead.
Because we all have testosterone, we all have estrogen. Like that's literally present in every human being. Like it's just like, it's just like yin and yang. Like so, y'all have it. Y'all have estrogen. We have testosterone. Like it's there. So it's just.
Well, let me say this real quick. And we're just kind of throwing out, because I haven't gone into a deep dive on this topic, but what they do seem to suggest is that the more testosterone that a man has, the less likely he wants to be interact with his children. The more testosterone that a man has, the more he tends to lean conservative politically. So these aren't physical things like muscles and jumping and things. These are these hormones affect our proclivities of certain things, whether you lean more conservative, whether you lean more liberal. they've done studies where if they give a man estrogen, he tends to become less conservative. We know that historically women tend to vote democratically, like over 80% of women like to vote democratically. Is that just a happenstance, or is that to do with the hormones going through their body? So there is some evidence to suggest that the testosterone levels don't just affect our physical bodies, but also our perspectives on life.
I mean, I could, okay, all right, teach me something. Like I could concur with that because I mean, I'll say I can concur with that because the difference, a lot of times, the reason why people they love to say that women are emotional, even though this isn't accurate, is because we have a higher, it's not, biologically speaking, it's not, you can Google it, but emotionally speaking, we possess a depth of empathy that is not typical across the board, which is why women have a tendency to argue from that standpoint as opposed to another one. Now, there's still left brain and right brain, so women can be just as logic-based as men if they happen to be a left brain thinker, but I can roll with the biology theory based on that because it does allow a level of empathy and a deeper level of understanding for scenarios in a woman. So I can see that. I can see that being the case. I can see women being Democrats as opposed to Republican. I can see them, being more open to what everyone wants and needs as opposed to. Yeah.
And we can definitely get into that more. I want to give everybody a chance to speak to it before we go to the next topic. But one thing I want to say about the women being emotional, men being logical. This is how I've always said it. Because both women and men have emotions, passions, whatever you want to call it. That's the motor that gives us, the strength to do what we got to do throughout life. I always say it like this: men, on average, tend to esteem logic more than women do. So if I'm having a debate with a lady, on average, she may understand logic, especially a lot of the black women are very well educated. So even on paper, if you give a woman and a man a test on logic on paper, I think that probably the African American women will outscore the African American men. I think that would probably be the case on paper. But I think when you try to use logic in an argument, men, even an irrational man, will give it more esteem in the conversation. Where a woman who may understand logic well may say, I don't care about the logic stuff during this conversation. So I think it has more to do with the esteem that you place on it and how it's going to impact how we live our lives versus whether somebody's emotional or logical. What's y'all's thoughts? Any thoughts on that before we move on?
I mean, kind of, yeah, I agree. And I kind of go off of that too. I feel like too, each individual's life experiences can alter whether they're more masculine or they're more feminine. Because maybe a woman could have been more feminine in her younger days, and she's had some life experiences, and it's turned her away from her feminine side and made her become, or made her want to be more masculine.
Yeah. Derek, you had something?
Oh no, I agree with that. You know what I think it is? A lot of the women that are masculine, it's like, okay, like he just said, your experiences can bring you here, and that's fine. That's fine. You've had, no dad at home or whatever the reason is. I think the biggest problem is not being able to acknowledge it when it's shown to you. Mm-hmm. Like sweetheart, just like your very first video explained it. Like, look, I don't care how you got here. Now we're here, and I'm telling you this is what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And then it's a debate that's not what they're doing. It's like, well, this is the whole point. The fact that we're arguing about this, and I'm being very clear in what you're doing physically. We're watching you, we're listening, and you're still debating me. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I just have to say, I just got to throw that out there. This show is about, exploring other alternatives. As far as how we think. So I just wanted to throw that out there, not to just keep it on the question. Okay. So yeah, I just had to change it up a little bit. So yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that topic, but we can definitely move to the next question. Should men care about why men mate selecting? Let's start off with.
Men care about the why when mate selected. I think we already covered that though.
Oh, we did? Okay.
But I guess we can spend a little bit of time on it just to make sure. Anybody got something they want to say about that? As far as the why she is displaying those masculine characteristics, especially within the Black context, you see that played out where you got to understand that, there was no man in the household, so Black women had to do this and do that in order to compensate for the fact that there wasn't the masculine figure. So that's how we arrive where we are now.
I think I agree with Chris on this one. I think if a guy's going to look at the why, I think he should care. I think it should care initially because, you want to understand at least, because maybe there's just a small little screw that's not known, that if you told, it's like, oh, now I get it. But once you get past, you've put the data out there and you're hitting a brick wall, then at that point, I don't think the man should care after that point. After you've given her, true credence of saying, hey, you know what, let me try to understand why you're here. And then once that still is not going forward in the understanding department, then I would let it go.
Yes,
I wouldn't
I
care.
have a question. How do you gauge, how do you gauge whether or not she's masculine or feminine? Because I'm asking this because the takeaway here is if she thinks that those things are what make her desirable, et cetera, et cetera. So what are the indicators that you get from a woman that says, oh, she's masculine?
I'll give you one. I'll give you one that's happening to me right now. No, not with you, sweetie. I didn't mean that.
Oh, I didn't take offense. I didn't take offense.
So I have a young lady that I'm talking to in California, and I promise you, when I'm texting with her, I feel like I'm talking to a dude. I don't care about picture when you're talking with a guy and he's talking about his business. Maybe you've asked him what he does and he's excited and he's passionate about what he does. And he tells you, ask him, what do you drive? And he goes, I drive a 911. And he's talking about his accomplishments and his stuff. You know why? Because women, as Vulcan said earlier, that stuff matters. But when a man is talking with that woman and she's just over and over about what she has, and she thinks that's appealing, I think I'm beating that dead horse. I'm sorry, Enos. But
so it's just annoying to you guys.
I think Tracy's question was how do you gauge a man having displaying masculine traits, right? That was your question, Tracy?
Well, the woman, yeah.
So,
that's what I was just saying. Like, what was the what would be the triggers? That
you're right there.
Well, I can't talk to her. Yeah, he was answering it right.
Okay.
Well, I'll give. I mean, did you want to try it again, Derek?
Oh no, I just didn't. I didn't want to go off. I didn't want to keep y'all on a tangent, but as I'm listening to this woman communicate with me, it might as well be a dude on the other side. There's nothing womanly about our communications except for her good mornings and her good nights. Anything in the middle, I might as well be talking to one of you guys.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Some of this stuff is subconscious and intuitive, like certain markers that we look for that women get, certain men. I've heard some women being around certain men and be like, he's a little too feminine for me. And there's something there. Whatever it is, there's something there that they're getting off it. Yeah. And and there's no big debate online right now about whether what does it mean that he's being feminine right now? That's not even a conversation online right now.
I mean, but you understand why it's a debate when y'all say it to women, right? It's because a lot of times, like basic things, y'all sling this word at us, and it's becoming offensive. Like it's like the new favorite derogatory word for women, and it's very dismissive. It's very dismissive.
But Tracy? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Derek.
Hey, Tracy, I think he was making a different point. He was saying the fact that we don't discuss a man being feminine is because why discuss it? Like we know what it is. We know it. But we have this discussion because women don't see the masculine. So it's said to them so much, and they're like, well, now this is becoming like a cuss word. Well, it's not if you would recognize
it. I mean, it's totally
can I get one
but
example?
See, okay.
Yeah. Can I get one? Sorry, go ahead, Tracy. Go ahead.
No, I was okay. So for me personally, right? So I'm very active on social media in this context of I post a lot, but on most of my posts, I don't have anything to say because historically speaking, if I disagree with what's trending on the post, which is usually a bunch of hurt guys saying negative things, if historically I disagree and I speak to that, automatically out of the box comes the big M word. And it's like, what? Like, I'm literally sitting here with my pink toes and my pink fingernails cooking dinner for my children. Like, what are you talking about? But they love to say that. And it's like any type of abrasive personality trait or any type of dislike, that is the new word to sling. And that's why it's such a debate, because it's like, well, dang, can I not, like I said, I just want to function in life and I have an opinion. And there are a lot of men who are not good with women having an opinion, and they automatically say that she's masculine. Even if
can I speak to that?
You want to give you an example, Vulcan? You got an example? Go ahead, speak to it.
Yeah, and it's kind of tying to what Tracy's saying right here, because this is a case in point right here. Like, traditionally, and for most women, they want the man to be the spiritual leader, the philosophical leader of the home, the religious leader, however you want to call it. And a lot of times, what I've noticed, if you're out with women now, and all of us are 30 plus, right? We're already in a lot of ways set in our ways. We have our value systems and stuff like that. And women and men vary so drastically on what we're drawn to spiritually and or religiously. Like, just for example, like over 80% of crystal sales is women. Women are into crystals, and to women, crystals have a spiritual significance. Astrology, another one. Astrology is like over 80-90% women. If you go to astrological, conferences, it's almost all women. And then you take a guy who's and those are all very you got organized religion, then you have, I would call, disorganized religion, right? So those religions are all very disorganized. One authority has no accountability. There's no book that you can really, there's no authoritative book to write up like Islam has, or other religions have, that you can actually at least hold people accountable for what they're saying based off what the doctrine teaches. And so women tend to gravitate towards these very free-spirited, flowing, fluid religions. And so you try to pull people together to be a spiritual leader over that stuff on a date, and you're talking about philosophical things, spiritual, religious things. I notice it's a turnoff to women when a man even asserts his views on those things in a very resolute way that a masculine person would do it. That's just on a small scale of like, hey, look, she's saying, well, I'm this sign, I'm that sign, I'm this sign, and you're like, do I address the science from the astronomer's perspective? Do I address it from the sociological perspective? I can deal with this in a lot of different ways scientifically, but she's already so ensconced in crystals or whatever the particular, I would call, disorganized religion is, that you can't lead that woman at that point spiritually, because her leader is whatever this mystical thing, that force that's out there. And so that's one way, Tracy, where I would say, it's very masculine. There's no way for the feminine to come on board of the vision of the masculine in that way, because masculine's going to be drawn to more organized types of spiritualities and religions. Things that are structured, it's more linear. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end. There's accountability. There's a hierarchy in place already. There's a structure, just like schools, like the government, like everything that men are involved in and how society works is based off structures being hierarchical and orderly. But women are drawn towards non-orderly spirituality. So how could the masculine lead the feminine in that area when she's turned off by the very mention of organizing these spiritualities?
Okay, I have a question. And you don't even have to answer this, but I just want to put it out there. Do you think that what you just said, masculinity being very structured and things like that, and do you think that is an excuse for you not to learn anything else or any other way of doing things? You are insisting that the woman could become turned off by your rigidity and your religion, but technically the guy is doing the same thing. He's turned
hold
on
on.
by her fluidity.
No, Tracy, I definitely would say that the masculines will be turned off by the fluidity of it, or the lack of rigidness in it, because it's not scalable. It's not a scalable model. You can't build off of things like that. Like everything that we do, of course, you said you build things. That's a structure. They have to have a certain foundation, whether it's a building, whether it's an ideology. They all have to have a foundation. They have to have things it's got to be scalable. We got to have a model that we can use here, use there, and have structure. You can't do that with the unstructured spiritualities. Just can't do it. They try to do it scientifically. They try to do it with the hard sciences when they try to study astrology, try to study the crystals, they try to study, law of attraction type teachings, and all the sciences from biology, sociology, psychology, chemistry. They all come back and say we can't do anything with it. They said with astrology, for instance, you're better off flipping a coin 50-50. It gives you better chance than you're going to get out of astrology. So they're trying their best to learn, as you said. You said it really well, Trace. They try to learn, but learning is a science, right? Learning is an epistemology rather. And so what happens is there's a science to learning. So the man's not turned off by the lady's how rigid she is. The fact that she believes other things. But when we go to have the conversation and try to reason together about it, she's not interested in the process of reasoning about it. It's like, this is what I believe. You believe what you believe. It's like, no. We can go deeper than that.
You know what? It sounds to me like she just doesn't want to argue with you. Because it's like you have this preconceived notion already of what it is that she believes. Like your entire argument, your basis is over what you perceive it to be, not necessarily her understanding of how she perceives it or what she utilizes it for and how it motivates or doesn't or whatever with her. And it's more so about you just going into it with a tunnel vision that it's already wrong and you're right. I could imagine.
Let me address that.
I personally don't care.
That. Yeah. Let me address that because I think you have a good point to some extent, but I would say that it's not. I wouldn't say it's a preconceived notion. Like I would venture to say that a lot of men have done more actual research into astrology or crystals, whatever, than women tend to have. From my understanding, because I've asked lots of women about these different topics, they haven't really done research. It's more anecdotal. Mm-hmm. So, and what we call that in logic, we call the anecdotal fallacy. Mm-hmm. Anecdotal fallacy is when you're basing truth off your experience, mm-hmm. and that's your metric or rubric to determine whether it's accurate or not. So a lot of that stuff rooted in fallacious reasoning, confirmation bias, reference group bias. These are legitimate logical tools we have to determine what's true and what's not. So if I approach it, if we're talking about me specifically, if I approach the conversation, I've dug deep for years into these topics, more than most men or women are going to be able to compete with. And I wouldn't want to have the debate. I want to have the conversation. Why do you believe this is accurate? Why do you think this? There's a club that just opened up recently out here, y'all, where they base it off your astrological sign.
Oh my God.
Women on dating apps put, I will not date these certain signs.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so my point is just saying this right here. There's no talking them out of it because you can't use any reasonable, compelling argumentation because they're not interested in the reason part of it. Like get into the science of it. Like we all learned in school, 1st and 12th grade. These women have degrees. They got chemistry degrees. They got biology degrees. But if you try to employ those types of disciplines and talking about astrology or crystals, they look at you like your breath stank.
I think that's a people thing. I hear you and I do not disagree with you. I don't think that's just unique to women. I think people do that because I was chuckling as you said it because I've come in contact with men who they're just obtuse about certain things. Like they know what they know and that's that. And I think that just is up to the individual. I do get your point though. And again, I'm not an astrology girl or crystals and rocks and whatever else. That's not me.
Can you please speak to real quickly? I know we got to move on. Why do you think that over 80% of crystal sales is women? And even though I think right now, population-wise, there's more men. And then as far as astrology goes, that's down to about over 80% by women.
The funny part, though, is that I think it's like that because women are feminine. Like that seems like a feminine thing to do. Like I don't know how familiar you are with like yoni and things like that. Like even the herbs and stuff that we use to steam our vaginas, like that is a woman thing to do. If we want to use rose quartz on our skin, it's just a girly thing to do. Like it's not, everything isn't for everybody. And when it
Well, let me
comes
say
to
this.
crystals and herbs, that's us all day. Like we girls. Like
what you're saying about the body parts part, I don't know anything about it. If it has some kind of therapeutic or medicinal value, then hey, I'm all for it.
I mean, it's from an herb standpoint. So yeah.
But if somebody says that when I do this to this particular anatomical structure, it means that I'm closer to my ancestors, then I'm like, okay, hey, tell me where you're getting that from. Where are you getting that from? Is it a book? Is it a book? Is it a study? I want to know where this is coming from. Because if I'm going to lead you spiritually, I'm going to be overseeing what goes in and out of my household, not just physically, but also spiritually, mentally.
I mean, I would say if she's an American, then perhaps she's been sold on the theory or she's a follower. If she's from a different country, then I'm going to let her have it because not all religions are the same. You know, like I know for a fact that a lot of people move different ways, even just, you know, in different countries. So it all just, it's just the melting pot of different stuff. Now, to be obtuse to anything to me is, you know, that's horrible. Men, women, whatever. If you're going to be not open to learning or growing or evolving,
can I ask you a question, Tracy?
Yes.
Are you open to 2 + 2 = 3?
Not particularly, but if you can convince me, I'll give you a shot. I said not particularly, but I will give you a shot to convince me. You know, like I'll give you a shot.
Yeah, and I'm 100%. I'm very similar to you in that way. My point is just saying, you know, we can go ahead and move on. You know, so I'm just kind of summing it up. We're talking about the ways, one of the big ways that I've seen in the singles market of where it's hard to lead the feminine as the masculine is whenever you can't have those conversations about the most important things to human existence, which is our respective philosophies and worldviews and spiritual beliefs.
Yeah, got comments. Shay So Golden has laughing emojis. All right, so let's move on to the next video.
Save a battle.
All right, here we go.
What I want to do for black people is to teach them how to think, because that's a possibility that I'm wrong too. I don't know if what I know is the truth, but I know that shit that they taught black folks is a motherfucking lie. If you really knew the things that I hate and the people that I hate is the people that black people love the most. Can I say it?
Say it.
I don't like preachers and politicians. There's a few preachers that I like and I think they're cool, but we got the form of Christianity that we have in America right now from the people that hated us the most. They didn't want you on earth. Why would they give you the key to heaven? One of the reasons why I'm sort of backing up from some of the stuff that I know is true, it's because a lot of people don't want the truth.
Facts.
Like if we start waking up and we really become conscious, then we're gonna start loving ourselves and start realizing that they've been lying to us all the fucking time. There ain't no fucking hell. Like God know exactly the situations that we're in. We have lessons to learn, but even the fact that we think there's a devil. If you think God is omnipotent, duality is a fucking lie. If God created the devil, why would you even speak of the devil, even if the devil fucking existed? See, the reason why they give you the devil is because you'll never admit that you the fucking devil. So if you blame it on an outside entity, something outside of yourself, then you would never fix you. When I fixed me, my life changed. It wasn't no fucking devil. It ain't these crackers. It ain't none of that shit. It's me.
Chris?
All right, do you agree with the video? Yes. Let's go around the room. We're going to get everybody to answer yes or no, and then we'll come back around and y'all can explain why. So we can start from Chris all the way down to Tracy to Derek Vulcan. Yes or no first, and then we'll come back around for why.
I would say I do not agree with pretty much what I could understand of him and what I was trying to get from what he was saying. I don't necessarily agree.
So no?
No.
All right, so let's get to Tracy.
I don't agree with his conclusion, but I love his process.
Okay, interesting. All right, so Derek.
Yeah, I'm with Tracy. There are pieces of it that I absolutely agree with him, and then there's parts that I'm like, nah, bro.
Vulcan.
If I have to just say a yes or no, I'm gonna go with no. But to Derek and Tracy's point, I do think that he does highlight some points that I'm a big critic of as well when it comes to certain religions.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna say the same thing. No, all the a majority no, but when I don't know, when I'm thinking about it, I have to say yes and no.
Yeah.
For the simple answer, I say no. I'm gonna start it off. Just him. I took some notes on here. Now he said in the beginning, I don't know if what I know is all true, right? And then in the same video, he says, but I know that whatever these folks are teaching black folks is a lie. I was noticing the contradiction. Now I know this video's hold on. I know this video's chopped up. I'm a digital creator, so sometimes you chop up the best pieces, but it is the same interview. Now, I will say this: you are able to, if you don't know the truth, it's going to be difficult for you to know what's a lie. I'm not saying you can't. You can know some certain falsehoods, but it's going to be difficult for you to know what a lie is if you don't know what the truth is. All right. So that's what I got for that. We can start off with Chris with the why.
I guess, like I said, I mean, I know this. Obviously, this topic is going deep into religion, which I know with some people. Obviously, a lot of people have different views, and I understand that. I've heard from a lot of my other friends saying how I've heard a lot of people say they want to rebel against Christianity because they feel like that's what the white man forced upon them during slavery. I actually had my father actually told me one of his coworkers, I think it's from Nigeria, and he was actually saying that his family knew and learned about Christianity way before that even happened. He's like, so it's not something that he said. That's not something that was forced. He said that's something that they were already learning of. But I mean, from what he was saying, like, of course, there are some preachers, yes, that do good, and there's some that, yes, that have flaws to them. But obviously, I feel like a preacher is just another human being. They're going to have flaws. They're going to have things that they slip up on. So not all preachers are perfect, even though they are preaching the word. So I feel like I don't judge too hard when it comes to that. So, but I'll let someone else go ahead.
All right, let's go with who's after him. Tracy. Let's go with Tracy.
So I said I don't agree with his conclusion, but I do agree with his process. So his conclusion, which was that, religion is just not religion. It's just not for you. Christianity isn't great. I disagree with that. I think that obviously Christianity, not obviously, but I do agree that Christianity is real. I think, I believe in God. I believe in the Son of God, all of that. However, I love the way that he thinks as far as him saying things like he wants people to be able to think for themselves. He wants people to be able to ask those questions and, dig into something and be open to growing and changing something that you may have thought you've known your whole life. Like, I can appreciate that quality in anybody. So that's why I was with him.
All right, Derek.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the premise that we've been lied to by a lot, but there's a lot of things we've been lied about that we could prove. So it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. They did lie about that. They did lie about how many months we got. They did lie about this. They did lie about that. None of that has anything to do with what we know to be true, what we can prove. I do like something that he said with the devil. I mean, obviously, if God said there's a devil, there's a devil. But I do think 90-something% of the time, it's you doing the act that the devil's happy with. It ain't nothing on the outside of you. It's you that did that. And so I do agree with him. He said once he realized it was him and not some outside thing. I mean, not that we're talking about demon possession and all that kind of stuff, but I like the fact that he mentioned it. Get yourself right. But yeah, he was kind of convoluted. He's right. He doesn't know the truth, but he had some good points.
Sorry to interrupt, but I was going to speak on something. I saved a video on Facebook. It was Denzel speaking, and he was talking about that. He was actually saying that when the devil says that he don't need to bother you, or he can just leave you alone, he say, hey, no, leave him alone. That means you doing something wrong. Like, he don't even need to do anything to try and tempt you because you doing it yourself.
Yeah, and that's the part I want to agree with Derek. That was the part I agree with him, that sometimes we like to blame outside forces. A lot of times it's internal things. But to touch on what Tracy said, like in this process, Vulcan and y'all was speaking about that earlier, even when he said, the only thing I want to do is teach Black people how to think. It's a science to that, teaching people how to think. So that's I guess the issue I would have with him. If you're gonna try to teach people how to think, you got to remember you have to be precise in your language. You're using a lot of ambiguous terms like they. What is they? If you want people, you try to help people to think. That's what we're doing on this show. Be very intentional with your words and actually identify who you're talking about with the they. That's what I would have to say about that. And him saying he don't know everything is true. I said this earlier, and I would like to say it again. If you don't have to know the truth, if you have a sense of a grasp of what truth is, you can at least identify. Well, there's ways to tell if somebody lying, like Derek was saying. It's a method to that. Checking on one of the methods you can check off of is consistency, maybe body language. But in this case, we talk about history. It's a method to see what some of these historians were saying was true or not. Mocha, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think everybody brought up really good points. The duality part was what stood out to me as well. I do agree that what David Banner's attacking is something I would attack as well, is that there's a lot of bad theology out here. Mm-hmm. And part of that is not the Black community's fault all the way. Historically, a lot of the conservative Black colleges Bible college didn't let Blacks enter. So there was a lot more of the liberal or not the best theology schools that let the Blacks, come to the school. And so now you have this, heritage of bad doctrine, especially with the, hate to say it, within the Pentecostal Azusa Street revival movements and stuff that took place. So Zoroastrianism, that was a religion where there was like a good God and a bad God, and they were kind of dual. They were opposite of each other, and that is in some way within the Christian tradition, not in the Bible, but in the Christian tradition in some churches. And I do think he's doing right by attacking that false duality that's there. Also, also the other part that he mentioned about the lack of accountability. You see this a lot, especially in Pentecostal churches, but you see it outside of there too. Is this what I do wrong is because of the devil? And Derek brought up demon possession. And I get it when we read the Bible, because the Bible's highlighting a lot of things that happen. We might think it was more common at that time than it actually was. Demon possession for them wasn't a common thing either.
Yeah.
Because we can read it so commonly now, we would think, it was just people being possessed by demons everywhere over there. But it wasn't a common thing. And it's not a common thing today as well. Most of the things people are doing is because of their fleshly desires. And the book of James talks about it. And we see that stuff in the scriptures. So we know that the Bible does not attribute people's bad action 99% of the time to the devil. And so a lot of times in our churches will do that. So I do agree with David Banner that we don't take accountability for our actions because of that. I heard somebody say something?
No, I was just going to say what you were speaking on is a lot of times our fleshly ways almost naturally want to do the evil things or things that are not of Christ and things like that. So that's why it's easier to do some of those things, and it's harder to do the Christ-like things.
Yeah, because we don't really read as a culture a lot of times, and just America in general, we're not big on reading and stuff like that. We don't know what's superstition and what's real. Like whether it's the red devil with the horns and the pitchfork, that was a black comedian named Flip Wilson who started that whole thing. That's not anywhere in the Bible. And so there's so many, the babies with wings, the Cupid, all that stuff is pop culture coming from humanity. So I would just say that we got to do a better job of making those distinctions as a people about what's coming from the Bible itself and what's coming from, church culture.
Well,
so I think that.
I didn't hear why you disagree with the video. I know you spoke on what you agree with him about as far as holding that stuff accountable. What was
I agree that those things that he's pointing out are problems. What I take issues with this notion that Christianity is the white man's religion and this day.
Okay, we get right into that right now. Let's just
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's ask the panel that question. So, next question, right here. Yeah, let me know if y'all can see it. All right. So, is Christianity the white man's religion?
Is this your religion, Chris? Tell us right now. We need to know.
Let's go with Chris.
Is this why you invited me on the show? The special invite to the show? He was ready to call me out all night.
Diverse platform. All right, so let's do like we did last time, yes or no, and then we can explain why. So Chris to Tracy to Derek, then I answered, and I'm gonna pass it off to Vulcan. So
I would say no. I would say no.
All right, Chris said no. Let's go with Tracy.
No.
No. Derek?
No.
I say, this is complex. It's a nuance of understanding. Yeah. So
it is.
There's so many ways. I guess I could just explore right now. Because if you think historically, you could say
you're just saying no right now, right? Are you just saying yes or no? Or?
Yeah. Is it the white man? I say no. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with no.
All right.
So
let's go ahead with Chris. Explain why.
Why you say that, Chris?
I would say no because the first thing come to my mind, because like I said, I know I'm not as educated as some of y'all on certain topics, but I would say no because during biblical times, the white race was not the only race. I mean, there was multiple. It wasn't the only race, so I that's why I would say no. I mean,
all right. Yeah. So, Tracy, what you got?
I do agree that white race wasn't the only race, but I think that Christianity is Christianity. Do I think that the way that it's been taught, and the way that it is displayed and advertised and pushed is soaked in Caucasian? Yes, I do. However, religion is religion, and Christianity does not have a race.
There.
I think Christianity, I'm going to say it this way. I think the teachings of Christ have been changed. I think a group of people took some of his teaching and used them to their advantage and to our disadvantage. But I wouldn't call it their religion. I think it was a particular group of people. It was their tool to use, but I wouldn't call it their religion. Especially once you get educated, you realize it's not their religion. It's just some people used it to their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I would say, like I said earlier, I would say no. For one, if we think about racism or just race in general as a social construct, so you can't say that this social construct is this religion or this spiritual practice. So no, like I was about to say earlier, but they are. No, I just leave it out there. I would just leave it out there. No.
Yeah, and for me, I would definitely say the reason why I would say no is because just when you study the biblical record, the book of Acts, it's not white people that are starting this movement. Paul was mistaken for being an Egyptian. I don't know what the color of the Egyptians were at the time, but I would imagine they were very dark people. Mm-hmm. So we know they weren't white. Yeah, the oldest church is in Ethiopia.
Correct.
And we see in the book of Acts the first Ethiopian converted at that time. So, ultimately, I would say no ethnicity and or race. I don't really believe in race, but you can use it. No ethnicity can own a philosophy or a religion. It's just not possible. You know, you can, just like you can't own 2 + 2 is 4. These are abstract concepts that anybody can take as their own as they so choose. Does that make sense? I think that just makes sense to the mind, right?
Yeah. That's why I said earlier it's a social construct, because technically we're classified as white and black in the Americas, right? In other places in the world. Well, maybe most places in the world. But if the Middle Eastern culture, or when they move over to America, they classify as white. So can we ask the question, Islam, is that a white religion? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When they come over, they classify as white, and most of the people.
Now, I do want to give a little credence to, and this is where the nuance comes in about how it could be a white man's religion, is that we know in the book of Acts, Paul took the gospel to the Greeks, to the Romans, and as it goes to this place, the Western world, Europe, America, Canada, is really based off of Judaism and Athens or Greece, however you want to say it. You know, the Democritus and all this stuff, that our rich history that led into science with Copernicus and Galileo, and modern science as it is as an institution, Isaac Newton, people like that, they base their findings off the Bible. So there's different religious views. So a lot of religions, like pantheistic religions, they don't really do science because as an institution, because for them, pan means all or many. God is everything. So God, everything that exists is God. It's sacred to them. They're not gonna manipulate the environment to create things in the same way that the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam would say that God is distinct from creation. So there's creation, and there's God, and a God being a intelligent being, and Him creating the world in an intelligible way, we can manipulate this environment to create things. When you look at the founders or the fathers of modern day science, this is what they wrote about in their books while they were doing what they're doing. It was like, hey, look, I'm reading the Bible, and I should be able to discover the world and create things off of this stuff based off with how they're reading the nature of God is.
The scientific revolution.
Yeah, so scientific revolution is an evolution of the Christian philosophy. Well, I would want to say the Abrahamic philosophy, mainly Christian, but Islam as well. It was an outgrowth of that particular viewpoint. So and because that was dominated by the Europeans in a lot of ways, the Germans and people like that, I would say that's why it can be considered a white man's religion in that context, that they got it and they ran with it and they built modern civilization as we know it. And other places in the world are just now starting to try to catch up.
I do have a question. Maybe one of y'all might be more educated on the topic. I know my father, he's a Christian, and we've had many conversations. He was saying that he was either at a conference or something like that, and he was actually said that he was told that Abraham's son, the one son that he actually sent away, I guess, because whenever his wife told him that he could have a son because she couldn't bear children anymore, and the son that he actually sent away, which correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the son's name was Isaac. I guess he was told that obviously it seemed like that son that he sent away was probably had the more of a complexion of an African American. Like I said, I don't know if that's something y'all maybe know about or anything like that. If that would be true, to be true or anything.
I have some thoughts on that, but I don't know if this is the time to really share them. But I think that's a really good question, though. Derek, you have anything, or Tracy? I know Tracy just hopped back on, or I have comments. It would go a different direction if I were to really try to go over that.
Okay, so this
I instantly thought of eisegesis and exegesis on that.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
Can put the meaning in there, take the meaning out.
All right, I think we can agree to. Let's get into the next question. All right. So, what religion philosophy has done the most for Black people? All right, I'm going to start off with me, and then we can work our way down. I'm going to say, what religion Spanish philosophy has done the most for Black people? At the top of my head, I'm gonna say three: Christianity, as far as religion, philosophy, epistemology, and I would say nowadays Stoicism. Nowadays, so those have
Stoicism. Yeah, Stoicism.
Yeah, Stoics.
Yeah,
so
he knows how to surgery on his mouth, so sometimes he doesn't always pronounce the words.
Yeah, I should have said that in the beginning. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead with Derek.
I'm gonna go Christianity. I don't know all these big
500, Alex.
I don't know all these big terms for philosophy. I'll give a definition: the philosophy of you can do it too. As soon as they started that whole the first this, the first that, the first black this, then that started the whole process of, see, you could do it, Jesse, you could win. I don't know what philosophy that's called, but you can do it too, Jesse.
Okay. All right, Tracy. Just Tracy on. Oh, you muted, Tracy. All right, we can just until she's let's go with Chris and then Vulcan.
I don't know. I don't even know if I would want to give a response to this one, because this one I wouldn't say I'll be able to 100%. I mean,
stay in your lane, Chris.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna let y'all have this one.
Yeah.
All right.
So for me, and Tracy, feel free to chime in if you come back, if you get back in, Tracy. But so for me, it's clearly Christianity, and I think this is important because a lot of Afrocentric conscious people attack Christianity, whether it's the Egyptologists, whether it's the Nation of Islam at time. A lot of these different conscious groups will attack, African spiritualists. They'll attack Christianity. But as far as what we can measure on paper, right? Christianity's done more for Black people than any other religion has done. The most affluent Blacks are in America. America was founded under Judeo-Christian values. Whether from England to here, when they settled over here. The Protestant work ethic is a historical term you can look up about how industrialization and entrepreneurship, those were borrowed concepts from the biblical worldview. They called it the Protestant work ethic. Entrepreneurship, you go out there and create and build. That was a very Judeo-Christian mindset to have. And a lot of those things right there is what has helped the Black people here in America thrive. And so I'd say that no other religion, African spiritualities in Africa, did not help them get out of the huts. A lot of Western values have been exported to Asia and India and Africa and places like that, and now you see them being more competitive with America. But you can't get science, you can't get discovery from a lot of those spiritualities, because again, these spiritualities are everywhere. There's no system, there's no book, there's no scalable model they have to help you build a civilization that can run properly.
Okay.
There's just not enough substance there.
I think Tricia, she said she had connections issues still. All right, we just bring you back on. Let's just move on to the next question. No, matter of fact, let's just jump to another topic. How about we just do that? Get y'all thoughts on here. All right. So let me make sure y'all able to read this. Respecting sometimes doesn't mean that you agree with it. It just means you will not impose your beliefs or try to change theirs. Chris, you agree? What's your thoughts on this?
I agree with that.
You agree with that? All right. So we got Chris agree. Derek?
Oh yeah, I agree.
Okay, Derek agree. I disagree. Vulcan?
Tracy, you in there? Okay, Tracy.
I'm here.
Oh, she back now? Okay, yeah, let's get Tracy.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Welcome
I'm
back.
so sorry. I'm with you, Eno.
Y'all.
So, did you get a chance to read it yet?
I agree with that.
Okay, so we got
Derek. You wanted another shot?
I disagree with it.
Okay, so we got two yes.
I read the first line and stopped.
All right, so Chris, yes. Derek, no. Tracy, no or yes?
Yes.
Okay. I say no. Vulcan.
Unfortunately, when it comes to these kind of conversations, if I disagree with any part, I gotta kind of have to say no. But there's two sentences here, right?
Yeah.
The first one, the first one, because it has the word sometimes in there. I'm not. I don't have a hard belief on that one. But then the second one, I definitely disagree with.
The second one, when it says it just means that you're not impose your beliefs to try and change theirs,
or try to change theirs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking with the respecting sometimes doesn't mean. I'm like, that's what confused me. Respecting sometimes doesn't mean that you agree with it. But when you think about respect, I mean, that could be admiration.
Well, hold on. Let's So we had Chris and Tracy agree with it. So I don't know which one I want to go ahead and explain why you agree.
Well, I mean, like I said, I agree, but like I said, the last sentence, like say if I respect somebody's belief, but say it means you won't impose your beliefs or try and change theirs. I mean, you can speak to the individual to try and have them see a different perspective or things like that. But if they won't change their perspective or change their belief on something, I mean, I guess I could say I'll leave it at that, but that won't mean that I won't respect the person and things like that. I mean, I'll just kind of like agree to disagree on the topic or whatever the situation may be. But I'll still respect your belief that, hey, you believe that, that's fine. So.
Okay, Tracy?
I mean, I kind of ignored the word sometimes and took it as a general statement. But I think by definition, maybe not so much practical application, but by definition, I would say that I do agree with this because essentially respecting something is, being all right. Like, that's what you do. That's what you do. It's not going to infringe on what I have going on. And I'm not going to, feel any type of way maybe about it. I think essentially it's a truthful statement. There's wiggle room in there, of course, but it sounds true enough.
Okay.
All right, Derek.
Derek, for you, why you say you disagree with it?
Well, because I think people don't realize that just because you have an opinion and everybody has it, you can have a wrong opinion. I'll give you a quick example. Is that okay if I give an example?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
So I met this lady and found out later she was Catholic, and I was like, in my head, I was going, oh man. And so we talked about it, and she says, well, I love God. Why should that matter? And I said, well, by your own admission, you told me you have never in your entire life opened the Bible. I said, so you don't know him. You have no idea who he is. And she took that as not respecting or judgment. And I said, no, let's not get into that. Let's be factual. How would you know me if Enos, Vulcan, Chris, and Tracy have just told you about me over the years, but you've never met me, you've never talked to me? I said, girl, you don't know. So for me, if I'm ever going to talk about something that has an element of we can agree or disagree, I don't like to agree to disagree, but we can go one way or the other. I would set the foundation on what are we considering to be true. And once we establish that baseline, then we can go forward on whether or not what you're believing or what you want me to respect even makes sense.
Well, Derek, why did you say you don't like to agree to disagree?
I hate that phrase. I hate that in religion. I hate it in religion because unless it's an area that's in my opinion not important. What was Paul's last name? I don't give a crap. Let's agree to disagree. That would be one. But people use that when there's an element of where they don't understand, like they don't know what it is. But here you are sitting with the information, and they go, "Well, I don't believe that. Let's just agree to disagree." No, it's right there. It's right there.
I am so
Go ahead, Tracy.
100% with that explanation. I am the same way. I cannot stand that statement. Like, I don't want to agree to disagree. Like, either you're right or you're wrong. Like, we're not going to agree to disagree. Either you're going to acknowledge that, either I'm acknowledge that you're right and shut up, or you're going to acknowledge that I'm right and shut up. But disagree to disagree nonsense? No.
Yeah, there's a quote by a French moralist that said this: "It's better to debate an issue without settling it than to settle an issue without debating it."
Say that one more time.
French moralist said that it's better to debate an issue without settling it than to settle an issue without debating it.
Well, so pretty much what the first part of that is almost pretty much saying you're debating an issue without settling it. So if you don't settle it, you're not really agreeing with it. So I mean, you still debated the topic, but you didn't settle it.
Yeah,
so I mean, if you have two people with two strong beliefs on whatever the topic may be, I'm not even referring to religion, but if you have two people with very strong beliefs on whatever the subject of the matter is, and you both have a debate about it, and neither one of you can come to like, okay, I understand either your side or my side, or both of you are just giving valid points, but the end answer is two total different things, then the debate it's no use to keep the debate going because you're not going to agree on the same exact end result.
You want to speak to me? I do want to. Sorry, go ahead, Tracy.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I do want to say this, that I do think there comes a time in the debate where it's like a courtroom. If we've already went over all the evidence and there's no new evidence coming into it, so we gotta either decide or we gotta leave it where it is. So I do agree that it can't go on ad infinitum. It can't go on into infinity. But if you do think of a better point, I got you know how it's like somebody making fun of you, or you making fun of somebody, and you think about a good joke you could have said after the fact. Same thing happens with debates and arguments. I should have said this argument. Yeah. I'm gonna call my boy back up and tell him why Michael Jordan's better than LeBron with this argument. And that's fine. That's okay. But to go, sorry. So go back to the original thing. So why, for me, I disagree with it is because respect has, I want to define it real quick, and there's different definitions out there, connotatively and colloquially and stuff like that. But respect typically means I have a reverence towards for something, right? That being the case, why would I have to have a reverence or respect for a belief that I don't think is true? Beliefs should be reverenced based off how they correspond to reality. Like 2 + 2 is 4. We all have a lot of reverence for that. We look at our checks, we're doing deals. That 2 + 2 is 4. It's very meaningful to us, right? And so we have a lot of reverence for it. 2 + 2 is 3. I don't have any reverence for that. I don't respect that. If somebody wants to argue that point, I'm not going to have respect for that belief. That's distinct from the person. The person, the belief. And then we got to think about different beliefs. Typically, this type of mantra or statement is used when talk about religious things or like political and religious things. But what if somebody believes that it's okay to be involved in trafficking?
Yeah, harming people.
That's a belief. Do I have to respect that one?
No, sir.
Yeah, that's right.
So when you think about it in its totality, obviously we all know you don't have to respect every belief. We respect beliefs based off of whether it hits the moral standard, the logical standard, the mathematical standard, or the truth standard. Those are our rubrics, how we measure what's good and what's bad. And so we're going to measure those beliefs based off that.
So that's what you say. So, and you said why we shouldn't respect beliefs. It depends on the beliefs, right?
It depends on the belief.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the second part of it, we talks about not converting. This is a very layered conversation because most people are terrible at having intellectual discourse. They don't know the rules of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to formulate a good syllogism, a good argument with a premises and a conclusion, and how to evaluate that. So yes, for a lot of people, because their points aren't going to be very good because they're not good at advancing an idea, then yeah, they end up wasting a lot of time and get burned out from having debates and discussions. So for some people, I would say, yeah, you're probably better off not having those debates and discussions about beliefs because you just never took the time to learn how to do it properly.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are naturally good at it.
Yeah,
that's probably not most people. Yeah. And so people waste a lot of time and you just piss people off. So I would say in general that you should, and we all know this, we all do this every day, you know, if anybody has children, has had to convince your child had beliefs that you had to come and say, no, that's not a good belief.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so our siblings, our parents, our friends, our coworkers, anybody who's had to be in management, had to be in ownership, you have to challenge beliefs on a regular basis, deep held beliefs at that. So yeah, I would say this right here to me is just somebody who is either projecting because they don't like when it happens to them because they're overly sensitive and easily offended.
Yeah.
Or they burnt out because they're not very good at doing it, and most of the time it doesn't amount to much. So they're thinking, why spend time trying to change somebody's perspective where they're probably going to have the same mentality anyway? But somebody who's pretty good at it, their success rate is much higher. And so they're like, no, I may not be able to change their mind, but then I might be able to change their mind. And I'm willing to give it a try because I care that much about that person and what truth is.
Yeah, especially if you care about them. That's what I was getting at. Because if it's, let me pull it up again. When it says respecting sometimes, I had an issue with respecting sometimes. Like Vulcan said this earlier, when you think about the simple definition, respect means reverence. I was thinking more admiration. It's hard to agree with something you don't have. I just don't see how that aligns together. You respect it sometimes. You can't sometimes respect something you don't agree with. I mean, that you agree with.
I think
so that's gonna be hard. That's gonna be hard to do. So it has to have a level, maybe a small level.
Well, Tracy had a point. I'm gonna hit them real quick. Then Tracy, you go. Like when I debate about LeBron and Michael Jordan, I won't say which side I'm on the show right now because we're not talking about that. But I'll just say I have respect for both sides.
Yeah.
Let me say that. Yeah. But all right, Tracy, you had a point.
Well, I just wanted to point out that respect has two definitions, you know, and yes, it does mean admiration and that kind of stuff. Like you can totally respect something that you completely agree with or passionate about, etc. But respect also means just a due regard for how people view things, their feelings, etc. And I think that the general consensus in this conversation is to only focus on the first definition of the word and look at it as from an admiration standpoint. But respect it's also in its simplest format. It just means that like, okay, you think how you think, I think how I think, I'm gonna let it go. And I'm like if you do have a different religion, like accommodations, like I might not serve pork in a room full of Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just a respect thing. Am I Muslim? No. Do I agree with them? No. You know, like that's just a respect thing. It's just a due regard for what they think, what they feel, and how they're moving within reason.
If by that you just mean a level of tolerance and to not needlessly offend,
exactly,
we're on the same page. If you mean to not needlessly offend, sorry, Derek, you got something?
I got a question for Tracy.
Okay.
Tracy, do you have daughters?
I do.
Okay. So I want you to picture this pool party. And it's supposed to be a girls' pool party, and you got all your daughters, you know, in the pool in their little bikinis. And Joseph shows up. Joseph believes he's a girl. His mom and daddy believe he's a girl, and the teachers at school believe he's a girl, and everybody believes he's a girl. I don't give a crap. I'm not respecting nothing. Now I'll be nice to the people, but that belief, There's no respect going behind it. You ain't coming over here with my daughter. I will have regard for your wishes and your beliefs and your traditions, and I will say they're poo-poo, and you're gonna go take it over there. That's what I think
I mean,
about that.
okay, so essentially what you're doing is disrespecting. But
So,
I mean, you still have a choice. You still
yeah,
have
yeah.
a choice whether or not you're going to choose to respect something versus not respect something. If you don't want to mince words, that is disrespectful. But
It's
at the same
disrespectful for me to tell
time,
them no.
I mean, technically by definition, yes. I mean, but also it is within your right to do so. Like, I'm not going to tell you that you have to respect anybody, because you don't. We're just simply defining the word.
But why would that respect be one-sided?
Well, I mean, like I said, according to the Webster's dictionary, it's just basically a due regard. That's literally essentially the point. Meaning you make accommodations or you understand the situation, etc., etc., etc. Now, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that. But essentially, you have disrespected that. You have taken how he feels and basically dismissed it. You know, you've not made accommodations for it. This is
Okay.
not for him.
Yeah, we
And
got.
that's perfectly fine. I mean,
Then
I'm
I've learned
against
something today.
co-ed bathrooms, you know, like, hey, and ain't no shame in my game. Like, it is what it is. Like,
Yeah,
I'm against a lot of that. So,
well, like you said, we agree. You could have a low tolerance and a high tolerance for certain things, but especially if it's going against your morals, and it's a reasonable
right. As long
to
as
speak against that. You
as
want
long as
before?
respecting you doesn't infringe on my respect for myself, I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to speak to that before we move on to the next video? We're gonna move on.
Oh no, we're good. I just want to throw it out there.
All right, next video. All right.
You're supposed to simultaneously believe that men and women are vastly different, and there's a patriarchy and discrimination, gender wage gap, all these things. So men and women are totally different, but also they're exactly the same and should have the exact same interests, aspirations, to the point that there is complete equal outcomes in every dimension. Oh, but also there's social constructs, and none of it is real anyway. Yeah. And any man who says he's a woman or vice versa is that thing. So you're supposed to simultaneously accept all these things in your brain. And I think this is a great source of mental illness.
I think you're exactly right.
All right. Let's go around the room. Let's start with Vulcan. Do you agree with the video? Like I said, yes and no answers in the beginning, then we circle back around and you can explain why.
I would have to go with, I think the spirit of what he's saying, I would say I agree with it. I don't know if he made a lot of claims in that video, but I'd say I agree.
Agree? All right. Derek?
Yeah, with the premise, I agree.
Who's after him? Chris?
I would say I agree. I mean, I do feel like the video was kind of a little all over the place, but from what I gathered from what he was trying to correlate, I do agree.
All right, Tracy?
I agree as well.
All right, I agree. So let's I guess we can start off with Tracy and come back around. And no, matter of fact, how about we just do this? We can just put it in the question. Let me just ask y'all a question.
Would you care to replay the video as well?
Yes, I can do that. I can definitely do that. All right, y'all ready?
To simultaneously believe that men You're supposed to simultaneously believe that men and women are vastly different, and there's a patriarchy and discrimination, gender wage gap, all these things. So men and women are totally different, but also they're exactly the same and should have the exact same interests, aspirations, to the point that there's complete equal outcomes in every dimension. Oh, but also there's social constructs, and none of it is real anyway. Yeah. And any man who says he's a woman or vice versa is that thing. So you're supposed to simultaneously accept all these things in your brain. And I think this is a great source of mental illness.
I think you're exactly right.
Wow. Strong statement.
Hilarious.
All right. So what is, I guess we can just do the definition. What is patriarchy? Anybody want to take a shot at it? Before I pull up the definition?
I don't know it.
I guess I was going to give everybody else a shot. So yeah, the patriarchy, as it's used, for most part, is just the idea that it just means ruled by the father, but that's not how we typically use it today. We typically just use it to mean that men run the world. Men are all the places of power and control are occupied by men.
All right, so you said it's like a system of society of government in which men hold power and women are largely excluded from it. Talk about that definition.
There you
go. Yeah, okay. All
I
right,
think it's society too.
So since that's the definition, let me ask y'all this question. Since we already defined our terms, let me ask y'all this.
Right. I hate to interrupt, but I am going to have to get off here. I am an hour ahead of y'all, so I have to get up early in the morning for work.
All right, man. Appreciate you joining us.
All right, Chris,
I appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
See you, Chris.
All right.
Bye.
Y'all have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Y'all as well.
This happened.
So,
fellas, go ahead. Hold on for a minute.
You want to start? So, Tracy or Derek, you want to tackle that? Is that question?
What was it? It flashed. I didn't get to see it.
Yeah, I gotta pull it back up. The question is, I just read it to y'all before I pull it back up. Do you believe what's the primary cause of patriarchy? No, do you believe that the patriarchy is the best system for society?
Oh, 100%.
All right.
100%.
Okay, Tracy, for you?
I actually do.
Okay.
All right. I will say yes.
I'm going to say yes. All of us are going to say yes on this one.
All right.
So, Derek, you want to say why you say yes?
I just, not even from a sexist point. I mean, when you start diving deep into men and women, and when you start looking at civilization, as much as I would like to go to Brazil and be on an island with 100 Brazilian women, we ain't gonna last very long with one guy and who doesn't have the engineering mind and the building mind and all of the things that we enjoy today. It would be, ooh man, it would be crazy. But that's the way he made us.
You want to go,
okay.
Tracy?
I have a question. So we're all in agreement that patriarchy is saying that basically men rule the world, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the question was, do we think that that's the best system, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, to which I said yes. Okay, so I think it is the best system, basically because, sorry, ladies, but traditionally speaking, it's embedded in us. The things that move mountains, the things that make things happen are, by definition, the things that we define as masculinity, not femininity. And when it comes to decision making, when it comes to ultimately carrying out those decisions, just from a mental aspect, we look to men as the more capable creature as it pertains to that. Now, is there a downside to this? Yes. But essentially, it's embedded in every last one of us. And I think it's the best because we are really living in a world where that system is getting shaken. And now we have conflict even with minor things like dating. We have conflict with, we have conflict. And I think it's because, that system is being altered. And
Yeah.
I hate to say things like that because it puts women in a position of, I guess, insubordination. However, what works and what does not. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I guess the way I would answer, I would say the reason I say yes because I haven't seen a clear example of a matriarchal system that's competing and thriving for resources and power. So I don't have a good example where a matriarchal system would be better than what we already have. So that's one of my reasons why.
Yeah, I'd have to go along. I mean, so you only have two types of systems in this situation. You have the patriarchal and the matriarchal.
Mm-hmm.
What we're told historically is there have been a couple matriarchal systems at some point in time. We don't know very much about them because they didn't write much down and they didn't last very long.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a winning system, and that's to Tracy's point. They've done a lot of studies on these topics with women and men and baby girls, baby boys. They've done studies where they'll put obstacles in front of baby girls and baby boys. They'll have the moms call out to the babies.
Mm-hmm.
And when the girls have obstacles in the way of getting to their mother, they'll cry.
Yeah.
The babies. And when the boys have obstacles in getting to their mother, the boys will knock the barriers over, will try to climb over the barriers. Boys are natural problem solvers. That's in our genetics to be a problem solver. They've done studies on women and men. I think it was like 17 or 19 different characteristics. And what they said was that women outscored the men on pretty much almost all of them. The only two that men tend to be outscore women, and this has a lot to do with how society's built, is men tend to be more confident than women are, especially until they get, especially in the younger ages. Men are just naturally more confident, more resolute about their place and what needs to be done, and then also they're better strategists.
Yeah, I want to speak to that. That was actually in the Harvard. I got it right. The Harvard Business Review. They was trying to figure out why more women are not in leadership positions, and then women actually score higher. What was it? 9 out of 10 or 11 out of 13. Women score higher than men in 11 out of the skill sets that they tested the men and women for. And what Boca just said, it was two things that stood out. It was two things that the women didn't score higher than. It was the two capabilities. One was developed strategic perspective and technical personal expertise. Those two things that women didn't score higher than men. I just want to give it a source.
Yeah, and so those have a major impact in building a civilization.
Yeah.
And making it run. That strategy and that confidence to do so. Then you get to the physical parts about, before we had modern technology with machines, back when it might take all day to wash clothes, walk into the river or the lake where there's lions and tigers and bears and crocodiles and stuff like that. The world was not a safe place like it is now. You had Genghis Khan conquering everything around them. You have, lions and tigers I mentioned before. And to work the land, just hand grip alone, hand strength alone to be able to work the land with tools. Mm-hmm. Ladies didn't have those capabilities. They didn't have the strength to do it. So you had to have a man to do that stuff.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tracy. Go ahead, sure.
I mean, I hate to play devil's advocate here, but if I'm honest, although I agree that men should do it, I don't think it's because of an ability issue. I think it's y'all seen Game of Thrones?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And y'all know in the last season or whatnot, or a couple seasons, there was the queen that wasn't a queen. The princess, the one that, anyway, there was a queen that was a queen. And then there was the daughter, Daenerys, that was supposed to be the queen. And nobody was willing to let her do it. Mm-hmm. Nobody, none of the men could get with the program at all. It wasn't because she was incapable, because she was actually really brilliant. It wasn't even that. It was simply by nature, it's been designed that way, and it's been that way for so long that I think that women don't have a fair shot at it, period. I just I don't think they would fall in line.
Can you speak to the studies that I cited, like the first one about the babies? They had baby boys and baby girls. It's a study that was done where they put obstacles in front of the babies.
You know what? I could argue that and say that women don't have a propensity for violence. I could argue that and say that
Well,
they
this
would
wasn't about
naturally
violence.
do that.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
but
was
how long did the baby cry? Did they give her enough time to come
well,
up with
well, well,
something
well,
else?
well,
I mean, there's
well,
hoes.
well, so what they found out with this excellent questions, but the thing is that what they found out is that the boys, when they had obstacles to get away from getting to their mom, because they're trying to get to their mom. The mom's called them trying to get to their mom, the babies, boys and girls. The boys are gonna try to do whatever they can to get to their mom, knocking an obstacle over, climbing over it. They're trying to figure it out. When the girls were faced with the obstacles, they would just cry.
See, you know,
And this is before socialization, right? This is babies before socialization takes place.
Okay, so I can't cite quotes. I'm not good at that. However, this is what I'll give you. I'll look at it from another perspective. A boy was denied access to something that he wanted, so he destroyed everything in his path. That can simultaneously be a detrimental thing to the world around us. That is the nature of boys.
This thing right
get where
here,
you gotta go.
I don't know if we would disagree with that, but it's just as far as being a problem solver, what you need to have innovation.
Did he solve a problem, or did he run through
Well,
it?
yeah. If I'm trying to get to my mom, I mean, if I'm a baby, my mom is my food source.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so again, you got to think about that. If we're on the Serengeti, we got to get food. Is that boy gonna get the food more successfully, percentage wise, or that girl?
So if the only measurement that we're going to take is whether or not he got the food, then sure. But if the baby sat there, the little girl child cried long enough, and then she really got hungry, how do we know that she wouldn't have went around those obstacles, that she wouldn't have managed to sustain that life
Let me speak to that.
and still get to her destination?
Let me speak to that. Let me speak to that right there, because you bring up a really good point, and again, that's an excellent point. But again, in the world of survival, time is meaningful. So if she cries and then goes around, and the boy just goes around, who do you want leading the charge? When time is a resource. Time is a resource.
I mean, I'm just
we will get Derek in there. Go ahead, Tracy. I want Derek to finish, right?
You know, listen, I'm not in denial. Go ahead.
This is one of those. Please forgive me, Tracy. Please forgive me.
You about to call me masculine?
Because here are the facts, and we're fighting them. we're fighting them.
It's not a fight, it's a debate.
It's like, I don't know. I'm trying to pick my words clearly, so I don't want to offend anyone, especially you, Tracy. I don't want to do that. No, I'm not gonna. I'm never ugly to people. Oh my God, I don't know. Y'all come back to me. I
got another one. Sorry, go ahead, Tracy. Go ahead.
I look at it like critical thinking skills. You know, you give a math problem and those word ones at the end of our test we used to take or whatever. Some people have critical thinking skills, some people do not. And I look at this scenario.
Well, see, again, that's what I was saying earlier. That's too absolute. It's not that some do and some don't. We all exist on a spectrum. So there's people who have lower levels of critical thinking. There's people who are gifted in critical thinking. And then there's everything in between.
I agree with that statement. And that is why I'm just open to all angles here. And I think that in a society, you have to be willing to see that although he reached his objective, you have to be willing to see that he destroyed everything in the pathway of that objective. And you have to be willing to weigh that in as well.
Derek said he's ready. Okay.
All right.
He said, I got it together.
So I hear you clearly, but I think you're kind of missing the point in a sense. Let me tell you why. Okay. When I talked to my sister about dogs, and she thinks dogs are so smart. Like they're just smart. And I say, look, you can train a dog to do this, you can train a dog to do that, but have you ever seen a dumb dog? They don't have consciousness. So, you know, the vulture that eats the food and then you drive by and he flies away and then he goes back. He don't have consciousness to just drag that crap over to the side and have his way. So the baby, what they're showing is, look at how babies who have no socialization, who have no knowledge yet or understanding of destroy, look at how they move when the objective is this. And then you take that with all different types of girls and boys that are certain age, and you look at it from a statistical standpoint, and you go, wow, guys do have the propensity to do this. Now, if he gave you this example and he was talking about 20-year-olds, and he said, hey, your objective is to get there, and the 20-year-old just started killing everything in the way to get there, then yeah, because he has conscious thoughts, he has understanding, he knows right from wrong. That would be a whole nother subject. But to prove the point that men and women think differently and they're used it from a group of babies, I think it's an easy one to just go, wow, I didn't know that.
I got another one. I got another one as well. So
what's that?
And we see this. I don't know if we need to really study, but when you see little boys play when they're really young, they play games that are very competitive and they have hierarchies, whether it's football, basketball, whatever it is. When girls play games like hopscotch and house and doctor, there's games with double dutch. There's no winners and losers. There's no hierarchy involved. When you leave the feminine to their own devices, they're not going to compete. That's not a part of their nature. And part of innovation, whether you're in sales, you're in sports, you're in economics, is competition. That's how you get to the next level. If you got 1A schools, 2A schools, 3A schools, 4A schools, everybody knows the 5A school is going to beat the 2A school. The competition level is different. The amount of people they can pull from to help you get better is different. And the same thing goes for when you watch little boys, they're going to be competing. They're going to figure out who's the fastest, who's the smartest. Girls aren't going to do that. They're going to be very egalitarian. We're all equal here. And again, that's not a bad thing. It's just not helpful for innovation and building up a civilization, because you have to have structure and order, people in charge.
Okay, I'm going to say this. I'm going to let it go. All right. So a couple things. One, the fact that there were babies is the reason why I debated that point, because they're freaking babies. And two, the thing is, with that inherent nature in a guy and that inherent nature in a woman, when you guys grow up, how does that manifest itself in adulthood? So that's one thing, which is why I debated it. Not because I'm obtuse, but just because judging something like that off of babies seems silly. But to speak to your point earlier, Derek, I found it so interesting that you use dogs, because I was going to use the exact same example to prove my point. I swear to God. So I have Dobermans. I have European Dobermans, which I don't know if you guys know this. Those are like the third smartest dogs ever. And I have discovered since owning these brilliant dogs that I'd rather have a stupid dog, because dumb dogs, what do? They follow directions to a T. They don't have the ability to question, to decipher, to think, to negotiate. They just do what you say do. My dogs, on the other hand, I can literally see the wheels in their brains turning every time I give them a direction. They think they are highly intelligent. Sometimes I really wish they would just be dogs and not 3-year-old children. And it's not a benefit to have an intelligent dog. It's not.
Well, let me speak to that as well. Like, speak to that as well. Sorry, go ahead. So we got the Audacity podcast. What's good, fam? Great convo. So, I appreciate the support that they're providing for us for the conversation we're having here. Thanks for that. But one thing they talk about also when it comes to civilizations is this. Well, I'm kind of torn because there's 2 points I was going to bring up. I'll bring up the one I was going to bring up initially, then I'll get the other one. So when they've done studies on male and female abilities, especially when it comes to intelligence, but not just intelligence, is that what the studies show is that women and men's IQ is roughly the same. But it's a big but here. This is a big but, and this has to do with building a society and a patriarchy right here, right? Women tend to be the more stable of the gender, meaning that there's not as many women with learning disabilities as men. There's not as many women geniuses as there are men geniuses. Women tend to be more likely to be in a consistent. So you're going to see a lot more men that struggle and have learning disabilities than you see with women, and you're going to see a lot more men that are geniuses than women. Now, the people at the top, which is a very small percentage of men, are the men who typically are the ones, the presidents, the Nobel Peace Prize, people like that, because these men are just gifted in a way that's above everybody else, women and men included.
Companies.
So yeah, and so what happens is, and men respect hierarchies. If me and Derek are playing ball, and Derek is beating me in ball, because I'm like, he's better. I don't like to admit this. This guy's better than me. You see what I'm saying?
No, I'm not.
Aaron Bain. We don't got to get into Aaron Bain today. That's for the show. Yeah. So anyways, that's a part of it too. When we talk about the patriarchy, who's in control, we're not talking about the average guy you see walking to the bus stop. Not saying he couldn't be, elite male, but generally there's just a small percentage of men out of 100%, a small percentage that are just very gifted intellectually, and these men tend to rise to the top and run the world, and everywhere in India and China and America. That's what tends to happen. It could be intelligence, it could be confident levels, it could be, whatever it is, ambition. They're just very driven people to an extreme that they don't want to have a life. They don't care about family and kids. They just want to control things, and that tend to be occupied by the masculine. Not all of them, a small percentage of them. And so that's another reason why I think the patriarchy is the best system, because ladies aren't going to be able to occupy those spaces in the same way that the men do. Mm-hmm. But again, average wise, women and men are the same. Women may even be a little bit slightly above men, but just the people at the top are going to be the men.
Especially when they get older. You see this in the workforce, especially when women get older and men get older. When women start having kids, having families in their 30s or 40s, their ambitions are not the same as men that's in those same environments. They're willing to compete. They're willing to sacrifice the time they spend with their family to win, to conquer. And when women necessarily, they don't really have those type of ambitions on average.
Well, yeah, it's more of a competitive thing. I mean, for a lot of ladies, not all ladies, just a life of just getting as much money as you can and running things and controlling things. That's a very empty life for them. Where's your family? Where's your social connection? Yeah. Where's the vacation time? Where am I going to be being able to smell the rose and enjoy the fruits of my labors? But and women aren't rewarded in the same way for that. You can take a woman who's a multi-billionaire. She didn't have any more access to men than she did when she was, however she looked, as broke. Yeah. But for a man, the more money he makes, he's rewarded by society with women and everything else. So women don't have the same incentives to be at the top as men do, because women want the top males.
So I guess
men don't care about the top females as far as monetary gain and stuff like that.
I want to get Derek on this. I guess you pretty much answered the next question. What's the primary cause of patriarchy? You want to touch on that, Derek?
Oh, I mean, I think it was all by design. I think God is the cause of it. I think He knew how things would play out. Well, obviously, I shouldn't even use the word think. He knew how things would play out and what was better. And when the man is operating in his God-given design, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. So I think the cause is, for me, if I'm just off the top of my head, I would say God is the cause of how. I mean, that's where we're getting the design from, in my opinion. So that's kind of where I'll go with that.
Tracy, what you got on that?
I love that phrase. I think I'm going to keep that for myself. But he said, when men are operating in their God-given design, I don't know, I just sunk in a little differently. But yeah, I agree. I said that from the very beginning. Debate or no debate, I still agree that is the way things are and that is the way things should be. And like I said, I think that's the reason why things are in disarray at this point, is because that system is being tested.
What do you think the cause of it is? So the question is, what is the primary cause of the patriarchy? You say it's design?
Yeah, I think that is design. I mean, because as far back as we can remember, and as far back as we listen to our grandparents speak, that's how it is. So by nature, by design, I think it is supposed to be that way. I really do. I mean, even biblically speaking, the women are the rib, we come second. So it is what it is.
Yeah. I tend to go with that. Should you want to go? You want me to go? How you want to do that?
Yeah. Primary design. Oh, make sure I got the question right. Primary cause. Yeah, I would just say fearless competence. I think that's the primary cause.
That's cute.
All right, how would you define that?
Men who have the need or the desire, aptitude, tend to want to battle things out for control. And you see this on, what was the movie?
300?
No, the Black Panther in the beginning.
Yeah.
You see men do this all the time for control of resources or just power. You see more men more willing to do that, and those who have those skill sets, like I said, who have the skills, who have the need, who have the aptitude, and who have the desire, tend to participate in those type of competitions. So most times those are men that's doing that, and as a result, you have a patriarchal society.
Yeah, I would say that it goes back to what Derek was saying about how God's designed. But I'm going to use the term biology. I think it's rooted in our biology.
Evolution.
Yeah.
The first unit to every society is the family. How do women and men mate select? Women want somebody. This is not 100%, obviously, but most women, and this is around the world, want somebody taller than them, stronger than them, faster than them, more confident than them, more assertive than them, more competent than them. Somebody they can learn from. Somebody funny. Somebody, I want a man who's funny. He has to have wit. He needs to be witty, which is a marker for intelligence. So women already mate select for somebody that's on paper better than them. And so that shows right there, just in the first unit of first organization of any civilization is the family. And you see that if you're looking at, it's either going to be a patriarchy with the male or a matriarchy with the woman. If she's finding somebody bigger, faster, stronger, smarter than her, richer than her, whatever it is, she's already saying that this person that I'm going to attach myself to is going to be the lead, is going to be the main focus of the family in that way. So so you have it right there.
Yeah, okay. All right. So
and Derek or Tracy, anybody got anything on that?
No, I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Tracy?
I'm good. I have so many questions, but they don't pertain. So go ahead.
I think was that the last question right there?
Yeah, that's the last question. You got some questions? Like I said, we have a high tolerance, dissenting views. So if you got some views you want to share, we definitely open to hear it.
So that borderline sounded like toxic masculinity to me. Borderline.
Oh,
no such thing.
I don't think there's such a thing either. But that would be. Okay, listen, y'all.
What part?
So I'm a traditionalist. Okay, so this is a hard debate for me because I really am a traditionalist. I believe in men and women and masculinity and femininity, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. Like, I don't. However, go ahead.
I just want to speak to what you said initially, and I know I think Derek probably wants to get in there as well. But I want to say I'm just a big stickler for words. It's not to like nitpick your words, but just to make sure I'm clear. When you said it's borderline, I'm assuming what you're saying is not. I'm assuming what you're saying is not toxic masculinity. it's on that border. So what would it be if it's not toxic masculinity? Because you said it doesn't really get that far. It's on that border. Then what term would you call it then?
I don't know. It would be what you say, which is just being a guy, just being a man. You know, because there's a thin line right there. But the way that you said is that men just are designed to have this charge, go after it type of spirit, and that's just part of them. And it almost is offering up an excuse for misbehavior.
Tracy, I didn't just say that men are that way. I said women are picking the guys who are the best at that. That's what they want to have children with. So not only are I'm not saying that men are naturally like that. I'm saying that the women are going, who's the best at that? I want him. Whether it's LeBron James, whether it's Napoleon or Genghis Khan or Jeff Bezos or Leonardo DiCaprio or John Jones and Mike Tyson, they're saying that's who babies I want to carry.
I mean, I hear you. I mean,
is that accurate? Would y'all agree?
Derek, let's go with Derek.
I think that's an age range preference. I think that at a certain age, maybe we have a preference for that. I think that it alters though over time.
Well, true, but that's again, let's think about what you just said right there, because you're right.
There's a season for everything.
Remember, I said baby making, right? I mean, after a certain age, the baby making thing is pretty much done. So we're saying the same thing. We're just emphasizing different parts. I'm saying once the baby making phase is out, once the eggs are pretty much gone, then yeah, it may be a little different to some extent. But from 0 to 35, girls want the top guy.
Derek, what were you gonna say?
I mean, I'm in agreement with him, and I guess the challenge with that too is that now we live in a society where women are super successful, and we're not shunning that, but the danger for the woman is wherever she is, she wants more. And I always look at this and I always think, where the hell does love come into this thing? Like, where does it fit in our society? It doesn't fit. You need to, I can't I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a 30-second tangent. You get on the site and you see someone that says, you must love dogs. What the hell?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's
some woman's going to tell me that to talk to her, I must love dogs.
And it's so predictable, Derek. You already know what happened. She had a guy she didn't like dogs. He had a guy who didn't like dogs, and now she's going to mate select based off that negative experience that she had.
Yes. I'm almost wondering. I'm like, why they? I'm sorry, I may have gotten you off topic, but that's.
I mean, that makes me feel like, okay, so where does a woman like me fit into that standard?
I'll put you in that. I'm going to put you in the same situation as the woman online. Then I'm going to put a traditional woman like you, how you would do that. So, you know what, Tracy, I have dogs and I'm really fond of my dogs. It'd be really nice to meet somebody that if they don't already like dogs would be open to it. Now you're letting the man be a man. But for you to tell me, well, if you don't like dogs, we just ain't gonna, like, damn.
But that's my thing. Like, a lot of, I am that person. Like, I am open. I do say, because I've dated people that don't have dogs, and it's always like, well, hopefully you'll give my dogs a try, because I got big dogs and I don't keep them outside. I don't do outside dogs. I really don't. And I think that's nasty. That's a whole nother topic. So, but my dogs live in the house. I don't do outside dogs.
Two big German, what are they, Dobermans?
Yes. I don't do it. That's a personal preference of mine. I don't do outside dogs. That's nasty to me. I don't play with outside dogs. They would be neglected backyard dogs. I don't do that. So my whole thing is I don't veto people that don't have dogs, but I will veto people who get in there and they talk about, oh, I can't have a dog walking around the house, or I don't want to eat at nobody's house with a cat or a dog, blah 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 blah. I ain't got time. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna let that go early.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you the difference between some men and some women. That if a man found the woman that he loved and she was the one, I'm sorry, Fido would be at the pound.
What's the difference?
I ain't fit to pick no animal over the woman.
So you
that's right.
But
I mean, but is it wrong? Is it wrong to say that when it comes to those dating apps, preferences should matter based on what you truly believe? So, like for me,
I wouldn't say it's wrong. I wouldn't say it's wrong. I would just say that it lessens your chance of finding your mate. So, if you would,
but
it's not wrong.
Would
wrong.
it lessen your chance of finding your mate, or does it lessen your chance of finding the right mate? Because at the end of the day, Fido's not going to the pound.
What you got, Vogue?
See, this is the thing, and this thing right here, like for us as Black people, this is important to me, because as it stands right now, and this is with the baby boomers still being alive right now, only 1 out of 4 Black women marries in her lifetime. 1 out of 4 Black women marry in their lifetime.
Wow.
The number one way to bridge the wealth gap between white and Black is marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Black, Africa. Sorry, I gotta stop saying
Whose
Black.
Whose fault do you think that is, though? Do you
Hold
think
on,
that's men or women?
I know we gotta go to the why.
Let's deal with the facts. Let's deal with the facts
Before we
first.
get to the why, which is an excellent question, I just want to deal with what it is. Then we'll get to why it is. Okay. Right. So what I'm saying is right here. As long as we think that these little points that our grandparents would have laughed at us for mate selecting based off of, as long as we keep having these things as impediments to us coupling and getting married so that we can build a society together, we're going to continue to be last place.
All right, Tracy, what you have something to ask, Tracy?
I mean, my question stands. Whose fault do you think that is? First of all, let me just put the facts out here, since that's what we're dealing in. We outnumber y'all, period. Society puts half of y'all in jail. A lot of y'all are gay. A lot of y'all are interested.
Well, do you want to address what Vulcan said as far as Black
women? we got a comment. It says, damn, Tracy launched a nuke.
Yeah. Don't come for me. But but for real though, like that's a disheartening statistic to hear that only 1 in 4 Black women get married. I would question that only because I know, just statistically speaking, women generally outnumber men. So that sounds reasonable, to be honest.
Well, let me say this. Then. First, I want to read this right here. I got a comment come in. I agree with Tracy, and men veto women that have dogs. So we got somebody that definitely agree with Tracy on that point. But going back to it right here, as far as you said, the 1 out of 4 thing right there, African American men get married at a higher rate than African American women do.
Exactly. But I think that's a whole nother bag of worms.
Well, why'd you make that point, Volk? I'm sorry, Tris. Why'd you make that point?
So when it comes to us outnumbering, well, actually, the funny thing is, if you Google right now the numbers as far as world population, American population, men outnumber women right now. Now, once you factor in prison and homelessness and stuff like that, then yes.
But go ahead.
Yes, Tracy's correct about that. But sorry, go ahead. I was just saying the numbers wise, it's actually men outnumber women, but once you factor in prison and stuff like that, then yes, it's like 7-1, 11-1, depending upon where you live.
You also have to take in consideration that when it comes to Black families, Black women seem to be in the majority in trying to keep a Black family going. It's always traditionally been Black men that are willing to date outside their race. They kind of started that trend and all of that. You have so many, eligible women, childbearing age, who are profoundly adamant about dating a black man. Whereas when you look at black men, the percentage of black men that have stepped outside their race, that have actually dated outside their race, that have actually brought somebody else home to their mothers,
Can I
is
speak to that, Tracy?
significantly going to be higher. Go ahead.
I want to say it before you. I want to say it before you.
Go ahead, Derek. Go ahead.
I know what he's gonna say.
Go ahead, say it.
First of all, there's one race. We're all in one race. But what I wanted to do as a joke, though, is I wanted to ask you your question that you've asked a couple of times: is whose fault is that?
And you know what? Listen, I think that I'm an accountability freak, right? So I am an accountability rat. Like, I preach it. My kids can't stand me because of it. And I'm like I'm unyieldingly honest when it comes to accountability. And I think that even though women do have some issues right now, as far as like y'all talking about the masculinity thing and the way that the world has adapted and changed, ultimately, y'all are responsible for this patriarchy, correct? Ultimately. So when you spout statistics about, the marriage rate of Black women or masculinity in Black women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, why not go full circle and see where you guys could be accountable for that? Why not?
Well, the difficulty with that, and sorry, I got 2 points I want to make. So I'll address what you just said. Hopefully, I don't forget what I wanted to make. The point I want to make before, but the ladies are raising the boys. So the product that we're seeing, as far as the men that are coming from the ladies in the African American community. But the point I was going to make is, do y'all know what the average weight of a African American woman is in this country?
Weight?
187 pounds.
Shots fired.
Okay, how tall is that 187?
Yeah, tell them the height, the average height of a Black woman.
What's the average height of a Black woman? Like 5'4", 5'4", 5'5".
How's she carrying it?
Listen,
we're not gonna talk weight. Come on now.
Now, the thing is about this though is that, so part of the reason, and this is go back to basic biology, right? Women typically like men that are bigger than them. We all know that. It's around the world. That's on all the dating apps. Show it, all that kind of stuff, right? Men like people who are smaller than them. That's just the natural. That's the only way for it to make sense. If women like people that are bigger than them, then men like things smaller than them. That's how it would fit. If men like people bigger than them, and women like people bigger than them, we have chaos. Because then who's gonna couple? So we know that it works perfectly because those two cooperate because they like the opposite. But if women are outweighing men at their height, that's very masculine.
I don't know what to say to that, because that sounds real audacious. Because it's like,
I thought you like accountability, Tracy.
I mean, I love
you got a 5'2", 200-pound woman, and you're asking how is she carrying it?
Look here, y'all act like just because women are old enough to say that they accept a dad bod, let's not act like that's the thing, okay? Women just decide to accept a dad bod, but that's not attractive. But how many grown Black men? You know what? Let me go statistic, because y'all like facts. Statistically speaking, who lives longer, women or men?
Women.
And if women are exactly, so if women are really that disproportionately sized, why are we living longer? Come on, make it make sense. From a science standpoint.
Well, hold on. So are you disputing the fact that the average weight of women is 187 pounds?
I'm disputing the fact that should be problematic and that you're going to give it weight in this conversation.
So Tracy, do you care about a man's height? Would you marry a man who's 5'4"?
No.
Okay. So in the same way you wouldn't do that,
I'm exceptionally freaking tall.
You care about height, right? There's men who are 7'7" that marry women who are 5'4". So
I wouldn't marry his ass either.
No, but my point is saying you're making it seem like your height is why you care about the man's height. But there's men who are 7 foot that marry women who's 5'4" all the time. So it's not a height matter thing. It's a gender matter thing. Women care about height.
We care about height. But here's the thing, though. When you look at short women, a short couple, she's 5'4", he's 5'6". can you really just push the agenda that she cares about height, or does she just want him taller than her?
Hold on. I wouldn't use that example to push it. So you're right. My point is saying again, the benefits of modern technology is right. There's dating apps. There's hundreds of dating apps out there, right? It's all an algorithm. There's a software engineer on the other side that's tallying who gets matched and for what reasons, and they notice trends. The 6 foot and above guys get a lot of matches. The guys who are under 6 foot, slightly under 6 foot, get a couple matches. The guys who are way below 6 foot get almost no matches. That's just statistics apart from everybody's philosophy and stuff like that. The software engineers of Tinder and Facebook and Insta, what all the different dating apps that are out there right now, Humble and Bumble, whatever those things are called, they know exactly what women and men like to the T because the buttons that you're clicking.
I mean, I can only speak from.
Can you speak to that real quick though? I was wanting to hear
I mean, yeah, I would say that just because women do have a tendency to prefer someone taller than them. But that's where I would stop with that statement. Because at the end of the day, it literally is just taller than them. I may not marry somebody that's 5'4", but I would marry somebody that's 5'8".
Tracy, I'm not talking about you, but the studies don't show. Again, the studies get very specific. It's not just a guy taller than them. 6 foot or better. They even know at a certain point it gets to even be too tall where it's diminishing returns. Where if you're like 6'8", you're not necessarily going to get swiped on more than a guy who's 6'4". You know what I'm saying? So again, they get very detailed because again, as people are clicking buttons and the algorithm, the system's tallying it. It's tallying what's going on. They know exactly what women want from around the world to the T, to the most minute detail. So we don't have to guess. There's no need to guess anymore. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I wouldn't argue statistics.
So what I'm saying right here is the same thing goes for women's weight. Just like women care about a man's height, men prefer women based off a certain ratio.
So are you saying that other races have a smaller weight?
Black women outweigh other women by a wide margin.
And you think that that's a significant factor to why we're single?
It has to do. If all the black men were 5'6", we would expect to see they're not getting as many mate selections. We do know. Hold on, real quickly. We do know that the man who is the least attractive, statistically speaking, is the Asian man. He's the least attractive male. I'm not saying my personal preference on it because I don't find men attractive. I'm talking about just what the studies say, and that's also one of the shortest males.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I could agree with that. I'm not going to argue or dispute that. But what I will say is this. I will say for men to supposedly, statistically, be honest on these statistics and say that they have a problem with weight, what you guys put out in society is in opposition to that. You are the reason why big asses, excuse me, I'm sorry, big behinds, all that stuff.
Now, let me say this.
The behind don't weigh 180 pounds.
I mean, but that's thick. But that's thick. So right now,
Tracy, you heard him?
Okay.
He said you're behind. He said nobody's behind weighs 180 pounds.
But I'm saying 180 pounds on a 5'6" frame is average. That's what I'm saying. Like that's for a black woman, that is a curvy figure. Right now. Stop. Listen.
You gotta think, Tracy. They're going off BMI too. They're going off BMI.
I am 5'6". I weigh 160 pounds, and people call me skinny every day. Like I am slim. I am slim. Like I can post the picture. I am slim. 20 more pounds wouldn't hurt me. I got a point. Thick category.
Tracy, I got a point for you. Unless somebody has a point they want to make, and I know we got comments. I'm just going to read the comments real quick, and then I'll get to the point about that.
Let me see them too. Go ahead.
He said Tracy just hit hard. That was what? Okay, that was recently.
The man on the street says that's not true. Exactly. Because I'm telling you, an average black woman that you consider thick,
I got a point
weigh
for
180 pounds.
I got a point for this now. Man on the street and Trace, I got a point for this. Now look at this. Now we just gonna do some basic math here, right? African American men, y'all already outnumber them. African Americans in America make up 12 to 15% of the population max, probably around 12 to 13, right?
Nah. Well, 4 or 5% as a whole.
Male. Yeah. So 12, the African American population of men, we'll say, is half of that, right?
Yeah.
So the most tolerant male to being overweight is African American men. So you limit yourself from the rest of the male pool by weighing 187 pounds.
Tracy, you muted if you
But that speaks to what I said, though, right? Because what I said earlier was Black women have a propensity for Black men. We don't care about being limited to white boys and Asians and Mexicans. We do not care. We deal with y'all, and that's pretty much it. There is an exception, of course, where we date outside our race. 9 times out of 10, that happens as we get
There's
older
not
and
enough.
we get
The
tired.
math's not going to math. So Tracy, the issue, the math's not going to math. If all these women that want to be almost 200 pounds are going, well, I'm going to get African American men. That's not factoring the ones who are never going to get. The African American men don't want them for other reasons. The ones, so you're limiting your pool so much that you can't even get the African American man you want. And so it just makes no sense to be that obese.
That's unfortunate. It's unfortunate to hear that statistically speaking, African American men find the weight of African American women to be a lot, because in social standings, in social standpoint, the thickness of an African woman has been revered. So it's really disappointing to hear that blatant contradiction. That's a blatant contradiction to what society says. Society says being thick is a winner. But you're
society
telling me
says
that
BMI.
statistically it's not.
You want to add to that? You want to add to that, Derek?
I'm just tripping. I Tracy, you said that you like accountability, 100% accountability. We're trying to tell you what men like, and now you give the statistics behind it. I'm gonna tell on myself. No, I'm not gonna tell on myself. So
I guess you could distinguish. I guess a good way of saying this, Tracy, I agree with you. Now, it's a difference between men that want to marry and men having fun with women, relations. So men celebrate certain women they want to have relations with. It's different from the women that actually marry. So the men that actually marry these women are not average 180 pounds. That's not.
You know what? And that statement I can agree with. I can agree with that statement because that feels the most honest to me as far as what I see on a regular basis. Because I can tell you right now that I can stand next to a woman with, boobs and breasts and behind and all of that. And I am looked at as like less than average because I'm small. However, you want to sit here and say that woman is not the woman that you're going to marry. And I think that's messed up. I think that's messed up.
Where do you live, Tracy?
No, you have to say what you live. Nah. But look, I do want to say this, Tracy. It is actually some studies. I wanted to say is actually some studies that's not actually true. That they did some studies on women. Now, of course, we know that women desire black women desire to be with black men, but actually, it's women are more open to dating outside of the race, just as much the same percentage as black men. It's just that they don't get chosen.
How old was that poll? How old were the people that they took the poll from? Because I can honestly tell you that as I've gotten older, the temptation to venture outside of black men gets stronger. I've seen that in my own circles where, after 35, after 37, 38, women are more susceptible to saying, you know what?
But Tracy,
I've been dissing Timothy my whole life.
But Tracy, given your size and height, Brad and Enrique, all of them, you have a shot. But but again, the African American community is the least patriarchal community. Mm-hmm. Every other community is very patriarchal. They don't tolerate masculine women at all. Black women being the most masculine of the women groups, they're not going to, culturally, that's not going to work for them to move into the other societies. If you go to Asian community, talk about you a boss chick, it's just not going to work. They're not going to, Indian, it's not going to work. They're not going to tolerate, their women don't act like that or talk like that. It's just not a part of their community. Yeah. So Black women can't just, so it's not about whether you get open as you get older, because they marry young anyway. Those Indian, Asian, they're marrying you way younger. So if you're 40, 50 years old going, I'm gonna look outside my race, you already lost, because the Indians and Asians got married when they was in their 20s.
Yeah, in their 20s.
You see what I'm saying? Black people push out marriage, not the other communities, because marriage is the basic building block for society to build wealth and family.
And again,
so
whose fault do you think that
sorry,
is?
so last point I want to make real quick about that is just right here. It's that, so for size-wise, African American men are the most lenient about size. When it comes to masculine qualities, African American men are the most lenient when it comes to stuff like that. So Black women can't just go date other men like that. They wouldn't be to make it in those cultures.
Yeah. So they kind of
they wouldn't get selected.
You know what this does leave out though?
I just want to say before we're going to do our last points on this particular topic, and then we can do our closing statements. But go ahead and finish your last point on this topic on Tracy, and then I'm going with Derek.
No, all I was going to say was, even though statistically I totally agree with you that Black men and Black women, etc., are more lenient, I think that there's an exception to be made when you date interracially. Because like looking at interracial couples, even just from your own perspective, I can put money that you've seen some odd-sized interracial couples. I think that there is a need for a statistic to be made on the tolerance level of people that date interracially, because oftentimes those are the oddest couples. Oftentimes,
but couples are marriage. That's two different things.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? I know plenty of Black men who sleep with all kind of stuff. They don't marry. It's all kind of stuff, and goes for white and Asian and Indian as well. So again, if we're talking about just having a good time, then hey, I'll rest my case. If we're talking about actually building civilization and community, no, it's not as varied as you may think it is.
Did you know that statistically speaking, Black men marry Black women more than they marry any other race?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. That's counter to the narrative that we hear all the time about it.
Yeah.
Right, Derek, you want to add points?
Oh no,
I don't know. Go ahead. I'm a fan of the truth. Go ahead.
I'm good, bro. I've enjoyed my time today.
All right, you want to start off closing statements, Derek?
Oh, with me?
Yeah, we can start with the guests. We're gonna start with the guests first, Derek and Tracy.
Just in closing, I think the biggest thing that people that are watching this or hearing this, a lot of times when excuse me, Tracy, when points are made by the man, it's like it is what it is. The statistics say this, actual in-person behavior says this, and it seems like on the other side, it's always well, why did that happen? Why did that happen? It's like, well, I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole forever on things. The thing I learned today was, as far as people's opinions, you can look at them, you can hear them, you don't have to agree, you don't have to be ugly to disagree, and men rule the world. I'm just I love women, Tracy. I love women.
Is it okay, Darius, if he did closing that question?
Yeah.
Everybody was tackle that question and go into their closing.
All right, Audacity Podcast. My question to the panel is, why Black women held at a standard, but when you see a mixed couple, usually the other race is overweight?
Derek, can you speak to that? You did your closing. Can you speak to that, and then we'll go to the next person?
Yes, he's saying that when a Black guy's dating outside of this race, he's dating an overweight person.
Yeah, but when you see a mixed couple, usually the other race is overweight.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to that because I'm not one of those. But no, Bonk is gonna be able to have to speak to that one.
Okay. Tracy, if you can just speak to that first, and then do you closing? You closing?
I think when you're doing something unorthodox, like dating outside your race, I think you have a tendency to be more open and more tolerant. I think that you accept things that you wouldn't necessarily accept. You make exception for things you wouldn't necessarily make exceptions for because you're automatically doing something outside of the box. So I think it is common. It is common to see interracial couples where they are proportionately mismatched. It is just the standard across the board. Now, every once in a while, you see a fire couple and that's what they are. But generally speaking, every day in the mall, I do see disproportionate interracial couples. And I think that there's a mindset going into something, knowing that you're doing something different that allows you to make exceptions and be more tolerant. I think we have a different standard from what we know, period. I know I personally have a different standard for Black men than I've never dated a white guy, but if I was going to, I think that my standards for him would be exceptionally different from my standards from a Black man, just in general. Now, in conclusion to this conversation, it's been very interesting. I will say that I'm not positive how a free-thinking, forward woman is supposed to be able to do so without being viewed negatively. However, I will digress with saying that I understand that men are attracted to a more feminine essence and spirit, and that in an effort to date moving forward, that should probably be your focus and your focal point in attraction and trying to bring in something else. And that's it.
All right, the Audacity Podcast said it's about getting the prize that's kept from you. All right. So to answer that question, I would say I haven't witnessed that. I'm just going from anecdotal, just from what I've seen in my experience. The interracial couples that I see wandering around or walking around, or I see in person, I don't see a lot of. I could just say white with Black women. I don't see them with a lot of overweight Black women. I don't see that personally. So that's just my experience. But she got another one. The Audacity Podcast. Oh, great conversation. Keep up the great work. Thank you. You want to speak to that, Vulcan?
Yeah. So, as far as my question to the panel is why. So this thing right here, this is why it's important. Black women held to a certain standard, and what I'm interpreting from the question is that when you, because there's, you brought up the point about if it's a white man with a Black woman. Yes, I agree. You don't see them. When white men date Black women, they typically date very attractive Black women. They date very natural Black women.
Yeah.
So I think the question is more talking about Black men who are dating these oversized white women, and I have seen that. Now, what I will say about that is this: that's anecdotal. I don't know what the actual research, because these NFL and NBA players, I think they counted how many NFL players, NBA players had white wives or girlfriends during the draft, and it was like all but like one. Those white women, those ladies were models.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on your tax bracket at that point. But to answer the question more specifically, the reason why women are held to a standard but not men is because women and men are not the same. You got to understand that. We're not the same. So for women, they have to get their life in order at a younger age. They hit geriatric pregnancy at 35. A man can start having kids at 50 if he wants to. And as a man gets older, his options grow because he gets more financially stable. A woman that done studies, I think the average age that men find most attractive is between 19 and 24.
Yeah.
So the thing is that women's options diminish drastically as they get older for what they can marry. One, because women like older men typically. Men like younger women. So if I'm 50, I can go 50 to 18. But if a woman's 50, she's not probably going to go to 18, statistically speaking. She has less options. So yes, she has a greater level of a standard on her. She has to be more particular. She has to be less restrictive on the kind of guys that she's going to deal with because she has less options by the sheer numbers. That's one. She has to have her life in order if she wants to have a family. Number two, the lack of women don't work as long. Women don't make as much money. If you Google right now, the average income for a woman, it's like 35,000, 40,000 max. Wow. They don't make very much money. So the thing is that you need somebody else if you want to survive retirement. You need somebody else. You need the couple. You can't afford to not couple for most black women in America. They can have all the degrees in the world, but their jobs, they don't make a whole lot of money typically. They don't out-earn men. So you have to couple. If you want to survive, one of the largest growing population for the homeless is women. Asia's being crippled by it to some extent. So many women now are not getting married, so they have to survive on their own, and women don't work as long because women's bodies aren't meant to. Osteoporosis, all the stuff sets in, and iron deficiencies. You're not going to see women 50, 60, 70 years old still working full-time jobs, working 50, 60, 70 hours. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to see that. Men will work until they die. Mm-hmm. So they need the couple. They need to take advantage of their youth and their beauty while they have it and find the best man they could find to build their life with. So yes, the standards of women are going to be much higher because it has to be because of biology. That's my answer to that question.
All right. So closing statements. We can start off with Tracy.
Oh, well, I think everybody else did a closing statement already.
Okay. All right.
It's just me. It's just me and you.
All right. I'll just say thank you all for coming. Shout out to Chris. Thanks, Tracy, for joining us. Thank you, Derek. Thanks, Audacity Podcast, all the comments we had. Definitely enjoyed this. I want to appreciate y'all coming in and tuning in with us. Nope.
Yeah, Derek said his connection failed. But yes, again, I want to thank everybody for coming on the show today. We had a great show. For me, this is about, I call it the Logos Pathos. I'm about being logical and reasonable, but also about, being ethical and also being about, being moral about this whole thing. The reason why I speak to these issues is because I care about the community. That's what compels me to talk about these things. When we started this show, we could have made it a relationship podcast, like what you see out there, but I didn't want to be caught in that fray and all the craziness with the relationship podcast because it just stirs up confusion and piss people off. I'm not into that game. I want it to be informational. So I don't know if you can put it up there, the anecdotal fallacy. If you can't, so it's okay. But I just want to say this, at least have one logical fallacy that we cover so the audience can be enriched by it, because we tend to place a lot of emphasis on our personal experience. And we will base our worldview about life and principle of life based off what we see from our limited vantage point. And I'll just say that the anecdotal fallacy, I don't know if you're able to pull it up.
I got it. Go ahead.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yeah.
So I just pulling that up. I just say that I thank everybody for coming on the show, my closing statements. And I'm hoping to do this again. Feel free to invite your friends and family and stuff like that. Let's get into some good conversations.
Yeah, just to say, and this is what I was speaking on earlier, we covered David Banner's video. And this is earlier when he said all he cares about is trying to help Black people to think. And I want to make a statement against that, or I guess argue against that. This is how you help Black people thinking, teaching about critical thinking, epistemology, giving them tools, essential tools where they can empower themselves, where they don't have to look towards people to find the answer. This is what our primary motivation is for the show. We actually, that's what set us apart from other podcasts. We magnify the power of logic and exalt reason at the highest level. So we are committed to advancing critical thinking with this maximum improvement. So keep in mind, when the more you delve into critical thinking, you will develop intellectual virtues, and this will make you a better thinker. If you want to go ahead and read the definition, Vulcan.
So yeah, the anecdotal fallacy it occurs when people use their limited personal experience to make sweeping conclusions about a given topic. So the anecdotal fallacy, and this happens all the time, people do it all the time. The anecdotal fallacy occurs when people use their limited personal experience to make sweeping conclusions about a given topic. You can't develop conclusions on a given topic just based off your personal experience. because it leaves so much that you're still ignorant of. So just keep that in mind, audience, and glad y'all were able to come on board for the show.
Yes, sir. All right, thanks.
Sir.
Till next time.
All right,
Thank
everybody.
you for inviting me. That was fun.
Well, thank you for
Absolutely.
joining.
Thanks for coming on board.
All right, Derek.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate you.